brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Well, I want to apologize for being out yesterday. Just all sorts of work piling up administratively around here, to the point that trying to launch a bunch of projects that have been behind schedule for a long time, that I took off the broadcast yesterday to work on things. But we're here today, and the news is stacked up from yesterday and obviously today. It's breaking on every front. We're going to be here for the next 3 hours, as we are Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, back Sundays 4 to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time as well. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we are broadcasting worldwide today. And I want to just open the phones up for first-time callers coming up in the next segment. I'm going to get into the huge developments in Ukraine, with Ukrainian troops massing, more Russian troops coming into Crimea, the Ukrainians calling for Western military support, major military hardware from both sides moving in. This is a big deal. And you notice it comes right as the world's in an economic crisis, sitting on the edge of a bubble implosion. You expect big wars to start because the politicians are going to want to distract away from their criminal activities with the globalist. That's just a standard operating procedure. So we've got that. We've got mysteries. Everybody loves a mystery, and it's a tragic mystery. Without a trace, you have this Malaysian airline disappearing, and I've seen the videos of the Iranians that were boarding the flight. And I got to tell you, looking at the eyes and the bearing of these two guys, they look committed. And I'm not saying they're guilty, but my gut tells me these are trained people right here. And they're very serious on a mission. And they look like Iranian Republican Guard or something. So that's all I can say, is that they look like the exact type of infiltrators you would use, who don't look like big tough guys, but are actually infiltrators. I mean, just my gut, looking at this photo that I'm showing people on TV. Folks can go to Infowars.com or any other news site for that matter and see the photos. DrudgeReport.com probably has the best, most extensive coverage of it all. And people have been asking me, since the weekend, what do I think's going on? And my gut tells me it's a hijacking, and they crashed the plane into the ocean. We've seen quite a few of those getting hijacked out of Egypt and other areas. And when it's a real hijacking, they will take over, and they will get in the cockpit, and they will fly the plane into the water. And they'll generally do it with firearms or bombs they've smuggled on. Again, if it was a false flag, you would have naked body scanners rolling out next week, like the Christmas Day bombing, where the guy was known government minion, his dad tied into the CIA. They did fake videos putting his face into, hooded Muslims at terror training camps. He was clearly drugged, getting Muttalib on the plane. We have witnesses that saw it and broke it. Turned out the CIA, again, basically ordered the airline there in Amsterdam to get him on the plane. And we broke that here. It later came out in congressional testimony. But they moved away from it very quickly. That was a staged event because, we're going to put naked body scanners in next week because of this, when they'd ordered them a year and a half before. And the outgoing head of Homeland Security, Chertoff, stood to make hundreds of millions himself off of it, off the billions. He headed up the company. So that was a total PR rollout. Just like, when a new flavor of Coke's coming out, you see the ads, a new Coke's coming out. Or you see them, Ukraine 3 months ago voted to not join the EU. I said get ready for them to destabilize and overthrow the Ukrainian government. I mean, that's a no-brainer. When you study geopolitics and the tricks and how they work, it's very clear. But then when you see an airplane go down and, we don't know what happened, they're real hijackings, folks. And they happen every year or so. And that's what a real hijacking does, especially when Hezbollah-type connected groups are involved. That's Iranian-connected groups. They get on the airplane, and they fly it into the water. Now, it could have been the plane just went down. It could have been, it's a coincidence these guys are on board. I don't know. There's also a lot of suspicious tech people on board. But my gut tells me it's a hijacking. Well, we have a big broadcast lined up today. I have told people over and over again, it's just common sense, historical fact, it's no big secret, that the NSA is about political control. And MI6's spy grid that's tied into the NSA and the whole global echelon system is designed to politically... Thank you so much. This is going to give me some coffee. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry I left that out there. Thank you. Now, getting back to what I was saying, you guys reprint me my Larry McDonald. I spilled coffee on this. Reprint me my Larry McDonald. Thank you. Now, getting back to what I was saying here on this live Tuesday edition, it is the 11th day, of course, of March 2014. And Lord willing, we're going to be here for the next 3 hours. And we're going to get into a whole host of issues. But obviously, Dianne Feinstein, who has defended the NSA spying, expanded the NSA spying, is privy to the NSA spying data on the intelligence committees and others that she has access to. And then now it's coming out that the CIA was spying on Congress, the House and Senate, to see what they were up to. And they're acting like this is some revelation. The basic information that I am covering here on air is well known and has been well known forever. That political spying, going back thousands of years in every culture, is just that, political. It's not focused on terror threats. It's not focused mainly on an outside enemy invading. It's not focused on keeping the public safe. It's focused on cornering markets, controlling economies, shutting down competition, and setting up mafias. And there's a lot of reasons for that, obviously. Number one, you know in ancient times if a foreign enemy's massing on your border, because you'll have scouts and you'll have towns on your border of your empire, your country, that will see the enemy presence intensifying. And then the emperors of Rome or Babylon or Egypt, right through to the modern empires, would then dispatch a larger force to investigate to see if a full army is needed to be rotated into that area to repel the threat. But it's always an outside threat that is used, whether it be Al-Qaeda that's synthetic and manufactured predominantly, or whether it be a domestic terror threat that's totally manufactured, or whether it be, the boogeyman of mass shootings that kill 167 people on average a year, almost all of them gang-related, but categorized as mass shootings. I mean, you would think there's an epidemic of mass shootings and death and killing, but it's actually shootings total are way down 51%. Justice Department's own numbers that they keep under a hat but are publicly available. My point is that you've got all these manufactured terror. You've got all these manufactured synthetic boogeymen that are hiding under the table. Historically and statistically and intellectually, it's prima facie. It's on its face. There's no debating about it. It's not my opinion. And so we need to have that revelation. They lied to us and said the NSA wasn't spying on us and wasn't grabbing data and listening to phone calls and tracking emails and faxes, when on congressional record, they had investigations in 1988, 1996 that were whitewashes in Congress. When they passed the Telecommunications Act, it's all in there, how everything is built to spy on you. The main function of a telephone is to spy on you. The main function of a computer is to spy on you. The main function of a smartphone platform computer grid is to spy on you and model human behavior and track everything you do and control you and predict the future to then manipulate the future. This is all on record, by the way. None of this is my opinion. People have to understand, oh, that guy's wild. I am not wild. I sit here in stacks of news every day for 19 years. Anyone that did this would be informed.
Catherine Herridge, Fox News Channel. Thanks for taking my question. Will the Utah data center hold the data of American citizens?
No. Part one. Well, I can't go into all the details of the Utah data center.
That's Alexander.
We don't hold data on U.S. citizens.
The head of cybersecurity that's the Pentagon branch of the Northcom domestic spy grid that's just already operating completely illegally. They're trying to pass the cybersecurity legislation. It's operating in plain view since the early 1980s under Cyber Command at Space Command in Colorado. Space Command runs everything with NASA corporately above it as an executive branch creation. That's the shadow government. So it's Space Command nexus with the public face NASA and their interstellar programs that are classified. They're really freaking out, folks, when I talk about this stuff, by the way. Most of it I've gotten from sources I've reverse engineered their program. And it's unbelievable. They've already gone, I'm not going to even get into it. I just cannot believe how screwed we are. The general public has no idea what's even going on. The globalists are trying to start a war with Russia. I'm not saying Russia's good. I'm not saying Putin's good. The West is starting it. And I've had some people run up to me on the street who are pro-Russia Ukrainians go, we really appreciate what you're doing. And I have other people coming up to me who are Ukrainian or from Poland in one case and are really mad at me. And they're like, why are you pro-Russia? I am not pro-Russia. I'm pro not having World War III. But I'm already digressing. My point here is tying all this together is that it's now coming out that, of course, the National Security Agency and Defense Intelligence and Northcom and Space Command, of course, they're spying on Dianne Feinstein. Of course, they're spying on Ron Paul. They're spying on Matt Drudge. They're spying on anyone of consequence. They're spying on the local megachurch preacher. They're not just spying. They're feeding everything into giant, artificially intelligent supercomputers that are then modeling what you're going to do and then integrating it in with everyone else is going to do to literally know the future. Over the horizon, true crystal ball, Palantir control. This is the end of free will, the end of civilization as we know it. The end of humans being truly sentient and involved in the real world and informed. Because you take away privacy and you take away free will, where Amazon knows what you're going to order before you order it, they can then put in the stimuli into the equation to control the future, not just predict the future. First you predict the future, then you control the future, and they're very close to controlling the future. That's what this grid is. They knew the internet would be used for liberty. They knew it would be used in an attempt to restrain power. But the globalists know that they're in a race technologically with everyone else in the system, and so they all want to obtain the unattainium. They all want to get that godlike power to a great extent to be able to predict the future. They all want to be able to get those life extension technologies. Can you imagine the globalists, what they want? All the old rich people? What do you think they're into? Living longer. Because if you can live 20 years longer, they believe technologies will be developed where you can live 100 years longer. And if you can live 100 years longer, you can live 1,000 years longer. This is the Elysium golden fields of the demigods. Not my words, theirs. This is the program. This is the reality. We're going to skip this network break. And this is the real world. And I'm just someone who wants you to know what's going on because I believe it's a destructive path we're on because only the worst people, the most controlling people, only the most jealous, envious, covetous, selfish people are running things. And if we had angels, good angels, better angels running this, it would probably turn into a disaster and destroy free will. This will unleash abomination, desolation. The psych warfare technologies, the dehumanization, smart grid, smartphone, TV systems are already mesmerizing people and sucking them into their television sets, sucking them into their iPhones, sucking them in. Imagine it. And I want somebody to create an animation of this out there. I know there's great animators listening. I need people to create this. Don't count on somebody else. Do it. Where it shows someone in an evolution from, say, 1947 with the widespread rollout of televisions and the entire culture changing, where you have people rolling the television into the house and the family goes from the dinner table and the kids go from playing outside to now living around the television and changing how you even eat food, packaged space food, TV dinners in front of the television, being inserted into a false reality, being bombarded 5, 6, 7 hours a day with messages of the establishment that at first were quite wholesome, but only to hook people. This was all done scientifically. Edward Bernays and others are on record, not my opinion. And so imagine the animation. They're all sitting around the table. They're outside playing. Kids are on their bikes. They're building forts. They're looking at the stars. They're fishing in the creek. They're, kissing a girl for the first time when they're 12. They're getting in a fist fight. They're living. They're humans. And now, within years, within just a few years, suddenly everyone has a television set. It's a sign of status if you have 2 television sets by 1955. You're suddenly living around the television. You're suddenly getting home. You're now not in the real world. You're entering the proto-matrix. This is the proto-matrix. Suddenly, they all gravitate around the television. The flicker rate, designed and picked in animal and human studies to put you into a suggestible, hypnotized, suspended disbelief, false reality. This is literally the key. People are in a trance. I can't state that enough. That's it. That's why they're so dumb. That's why you can't get through to them. That's why they're so suggestible. I don't even try to be manipulative now, and I can just walk directly up to police and basically start programming them. I can walk up to women and start programming them. Start talking to them, literally using basic systems that they use in television, and the people literally go back into trances, and I'm not even a hypnotist, and I've never even studied it.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along.
Now, again, I mentioned police because they're about the hardest on average because they actually live in the real world. And I'm not glorifying police here. They actually live in the real world, see what's going on. They're not watching a lot of television. They're having to interact with people. They're having to deal with all sorts of crises constantly. And so that's why I say police are more awake than anybody in the country on average, except for the military. And the military is awake because they've seen the corruption. They've seen arms and legs blown off. They've seen dead kids. They've seen the bid rigging. They've seen what goes on at the military bases. They've seen people getting killed at the bases that talk about the drug dealing. They've been hired by the CIA to carry out hits. They live in the real world. That's how naive the public is. They're like children. But even the police now are suggestible. And I can just organically, watching the tricks on television now, go out and talk to the public, and you can see who's conscious, who's unconscious. And the globalists study this. They invented this. It's incredible. So my response to it is to have zero manipulation. Just be 100% upfront with folks on how this is working and what's going on. Because even if someone's in a subconscious state, they subconsciously are hearing this now and will work through the data and start seeing how they're being manipulated, how they're in a trance. The only way to wake people up now, I realize, is not to even show them data and facts and proof, because they'll just call you a conspiracy theorist, because that's the hypnotic trance word that means disregard, don't look at this. Oh, that person says don't trust a system that's known for lying. This person says think outside the box, think for yourself. That's a heretic. And I realize that everything is about getting people to take the red pill and just for themselves see what's around them. You're never going to tell them about it. They've got to see it. What did Morpheus say to Neo? One cannot be told about the Matrix. And by the way, all I'm offering is the truth before you take that red pill. You say you're taking it. All I'm offering is the truth. But I got to tell you, folks, it's like weightlifting. I'm getting back into weightlifting, getting back into shape. It just feels so good. And when I get like dumbbells, 20-pound dumbbells on a bench press are heavier than 60, 70, 100-pound dumbbells. Because I'm not used to lifting a light weight from muscle memory 20 years ago. I'm used to lifting a heavy weight. And it's the same thing. It's like an atmosphere. It's like a plant that isn't in the wind, that isn't in the rain, will not thrive. A plant that's in the wind and rain will grow and thrive from the pressure. What do they say? Pain is weakness leaving the body. Well, it's the same thing mentally. You're meant to be in the real world. Your ancestors, folks, drove mastodons off cliffs so they could eat them. Our ancestors fought tigers and lions and big cats and cave bears, twice the size of a grizzly bear. Humans with spears and rocks would go and kill big bears. Bears ran from humans. Polar bears ran from humans. Everything roared. And humans could look up and see the stars and invent systems to track them and literature and art and everything. And look what we've been turned into, because we're all being killed by the softness, killed by the domestication. We are being sucked in to the dehumanizing evil and the animation. The animation that I want people to come up with. You shouldn't have to have a contest. Pay people $10,000, even though it's great. You should do it for humanity. Do it for art. That's how we'll defeat the tyrants, is giving the human art, the human spirit expression to jam the culture wave of the mind control that would have to take our free will, dumb us down, and put us in a trance to control us. That is the ultimate sin against free will. God gives us free will. The enemy, the devil, the deceiver, the accuser, get behind me, Satan. What does Satan do? Gets in front of you on our road to the stars. Satan gets in front of human development. Satan only gives us mutated technologies and mutated systems that control us and dumb us down in an attempt to play God and build an artificial system to predict the future. The devil doesn't have omnipresence. The devil is trying to use humans made in the image of God to build a God machine to be able to understand the future and decipher everything. The devil only knows how to con people and manipulate people because he is a magician. He is a deceiver. He is a fraud. He is a lie. He is not 1/1 trillionth what the Creator is. To hell with the devil. Straight to the pit with Satan. Down with Satan in the name of Jesus Christ. Get behind me, Satan. Down with the devil. Down with the fraud. Get out of the road. Get behind me. You understand that? Get out of the road, New World Order. Get out of my mind. Get out of my free will. Get out of my way. Humanity is going interstellar. And this great challenge of the devil and the smartphones and the NSA and the culture destroying and the chemicals in the water and the war on the family, it's all coming down. It's all going down. It's the test. We're going through the fire, in, through, and beyond, in the animating contest of liberty. The devil doesn't give you the animating contest. The devil lies and tells you that he gave you what God gave you. God gave you your gifts. God gave you your power. The devil lies and says, sell your soul to me and I will give you gifts. The devil will do nothing but pervert the gifts of the Creator. We are made, think about that, in the image of the master builder, the supreme architect of the universe. And idiots will go, that's a Masonic. No, the Bible says the heavens are the handiwork, the signature. Of course they are. All of it, this whole creation. And we are made in the image and the likeness in our mind, in our body, in our form, of the supreme entity that has built the entire interdimensional system that our minds cannot even begin to imagine. And the devil has a good idea of that, and the devil wants that, because the devil is never a maker. The devil is a taker and a twister and a counterfeiter from the beginning, and a fraud with a false light of black sunshine. And I've got a lot of news to cover, but when it comes down to the final equation, the NSA, of course it's spying on us, and they got caught lying. Of course it's spying politically to control people. Of course they're spying on the Associated Press. Of course it's illegal. Of course it's all a fraud. And it's all meant to shutter your consciousness. It's all meant to keep you from being empowered. It's all meant to rob you of the absolutely holy vision that we experience on a tiny scale of the Creator, to commune with the Creator of the universe, whose creation is a giant 100-dimensional gate into other worlds that the eye have not seen, the ear has not heard what is in store. It's Spaceship Earth. Your body is nothing. I'm joking. It's up on Infowars.com. It's up on Prisonplanet.com. I realize why I come in here and rant sometimes and start preaching. I look at all this news, and it's so insane, and it's so scientifically being deployed on record that if people would just wake up and see it, it would all be over. But people have been eased in from birth into the lie, into the fraud, and it's basically all they know now. A major feminist group, which is actually anti-feminine, what they've done to women, done to men, done to the human species, have come out and said they want to ban the word bossy because it's associated with women henpecking. Well, women are supposed to be bossy with their children. They're not supposed to be bossy with their men, and they're never happy when they are bossy. But men are supposed to act like men as well, so I don't blame women. But feminist control freaks want to ban the word bossy, campaign backed by banks, oil companies, and transnational corporations. Yeah, the World Bank is sponsoring South by Southwest, one of the main sponsors, and they are sponsoring Bloomberg and a move to ban our guns. That piece of filth came here, and that's why we're going to have a open carry armed march. There's an article up on Infowars.com, in fact, that I want to get Kit Daniels to repost. Sha'Carri Jackson did a video report on that. We're going to be airing coming up here in a little while. And so there's going to be an armed march, open carry, at the giant media conference that literally is a giant fraud with a bunch of ne'er-do-well, well-meaning zombies wandering around buying $1,000, $1,200 passes to line up and not even get into most of the events, and then have corporations try to sell them things. It literally is the Emperor's New Clothes. It literally is a giant hoax run by anti-free speech, anti-gun, anti-family slobs who literally are enemies of everything good. I mean, it's just these people make me want to vomit. Anyways, excuse me. And because yesterday I was thinking about doing a big report on it, and we were in the meeting for like an hour looking at the South by Southwest website, and it was everything was anti-human, everything was anti-family, everything was to feminize men, everything was how to be face scanned and have no privacy and how great it is, while they have Snowden on talking about how the NSA spying on us. Great for Snowden, folks. I'm not saying I, but it's a fact. We had all the NSA whistleblowers on, James Bamford. So many others, just so many, it's hard to even bring them all up in my mind. This is all on record. It's like Snowden said the sun came up this morning. Wayne Madsen, he was in security at the NSA, over spying on people at the NSA to make sure they weren't spying on the government. And, I mean, he wasn't a contractor with the NSA, folks. He was there and testified to Congress and the EU and broke basically most of what we know about the NSA. We all knew they were spying illegally. We all knew they were targeting other politicians. We knew they were spying on the media. I mean, what? Look at Google. Look at Facebook. Look at Twitter. Look at Microsoft. The whole platforms are built around spying on you. While you move the mouse over the cursor or while you're spelling, it tells you where you're going. It tells you what you're thinking. It tells you what you're doing. Amazon, 5 years ago, had nearly 100% accuracy rate. Now they have 100% accuracy rate off of your profile and where your cursor goes and what you linger on in real time. It's looking at you. Everything you do has your profile, and it knows where you're going and what you're doing, and it can then order it before you even order it and have it going into the shipping process to be delivered to you. And I told you that 5 years ago, and it finally was announced this year. Because it was already in MIT papers, it was already public. I told you the reason they went to the new type of light bulb is because they can send data over power line and flicker rate it to remote control the new computers that are coming out. That was finally in mainstream news again last week. They have mainstream dinosaur press every few months to a story saying Jones claims the light bulbs are controlling you. Well, they do also in the patents say the flicker rate has the added goodie of being able to mesmerize people. I mean, look at the public. Look at the IQ dropping. Look at people in a dreamlike state. The brainwaves are lower. I mean, this is all fact, folks, just like the spider goats I told people about 18 years ago. And I was reading it out of a technology publication that somebody mailed me before it was in CBS News, NBC News a few years before, and people said I was a liar. And I was on air with the Biotech Technology magazine, because I used to have listeners. They still do it. But back then it was precious because the web wasn't very big. They would send me publications. Hey, here's MIT publication. Hey, here's Stanford publication. Hey, here, it's a lot more serious. Hey, I'm an engineer at UT. Come on down. And I would be let in, you know, and they'd go, oh, you didn't see this, and punch a button, and it'd be hundreds of monkeys with wires in their brains with television sets brainwashing them. You know, I mean, I just don't even know what to tell people anymore. I mean, we're living in a positronic psych warfare hell grid. And they know that if we wake up to it, there it is, a new use for LEDs, mind control. Here, back it out. What's that from? Is that Wired? New York Times. Boom. When was that? 2011. See, print that, actually. Print that. But see, that's what I mean. I'm just trying to warn you, folks. The television is a giant LED weapon system. It's so advanced. They got a monkey farm in Bastrop, folks, that they do all sorts of testing on great apes, rhesus monkeys, the whole 9 yards. And I've seen it over closed circuit television. It was punched up in a DARPA facility. The labs are funded by DARPA. And let me tell you, they're training to fuck. Oh, God, I can't handle it. I almost started cussing, excuse me. I just, folks, it's getting to me. And I'm realizing that half measures are not going to defeat this operation. They have got thousands of monkeys at facilities all over the world. They have hundreds at this facility with wires in their brains in a 40-year program. It just keeps going with flicker rates to mind control them and to test them to then deploy the weapon system against you. Of course, governments were going to do this. Of course they would use it. Of course they would do it. Anything they can do, they're going to do it. They're putting hundreds of deadly chemicals in your water. They're putting hundreds of deadly chemicals in the food chain. They're putting all sorts of different wavelengths out, and DARPA is on record in the Baltimore Sun in 1999. I read this article on air probably 25 times. I couldn't believe it. A listener actually mailed me the Baltimore newspaper. I wish somebody would go to the microfilm and dig it up. And they said, it's true, DARPA's looking at fluxing the cell towers and doing tests to just relax the public during crises. And I was holding in my hand, because they do that as a test, DARPA in the Baltimore Sun talking about mind control towers. I mean, this is the stuff for schizophrenics. I just showed you the New York Times admitting LED lights, and but it's also not just the LED, it's the new curly-Q ones. What do you call those? Yeah, fluorescent, I know, but they've got a certain name. The point is, those are the ones where they have the data over the power line, and then it can control devices in your house off its flicker rate, but also control you, and they admit it. And then the public, so weak-minded, they think I'm crazy. Because if they admit this is going on, then you're going to have to do something about it, folks. And I get it. I could go insert myself into the Matrix. Hell, I already do. I already sometimes get weak and go to a friend's house and watch a football game and get bombarded with TV and manipulation and brainwashing. And I want to be able to forget the brainwashing. I want to be able to have fun but I can't do it, folks, because it's constant and it's total and it's my consciousness. I will not give up my consciousness. And by the way, I'm alive. I'm very happy. It is invigorating to be in the real world and to have these pressures on you and to know how real it is. That's what consciousness is. That's what our ancestors have gone through. And I said I'd take your phone calls. We've got the Malaysia Airline mystery that could be one of several things that I'm going to be getting into, but I got to settle down and do that in the third hour after Dr. Stallman, top technology expert, leaves us. And I said I'd take your calls on just the Ukraine situation is escalating so horribly because there's a world economic meltdown happening. And they're going to start a big war when that happens to divert off of the fact that they're behind it. All over the, I mean, here's some drudge headlines. City adds security checkpoints to all entryways, touts nonstop fiber optic video surveillance. That's what the Google thing is about. Police block highway lanes, go car to car in search of bank robbers. Just everything's martial law, lock everything down randomly. You know, half of Boston for one guy. Beach town bans smoking on boardwalk. Lady Gaga Foundation spends more on lawyers, consultants than on charity. Of course, all these rich people have charities to pay for their jets and everything like Bill Clinton. And it just goes on and on from that point. I mean, we're just sitting here deciphering all this news, and it just goes on and on. Branson says global warming deniers get out of our way. See, Satan tells us to get out of their way. They're the ones trying to corner our markets and control them and shut everybody off but themselves. And they're failing and losing at every level. Virgin Atlantic Airlines emitted 7.1 million metric tons of CO2. And they're only intensifying their fear-mongering, saying that Genghis Khan was able to conquer all before him because of climate change. And they're now saying, you know, that we're going to be flooded even faster, even though the ice caps are getting bigger. I mean, it's just all giant criminal hoaxes. The Dems declare war on weather. Meanwhile, Google, driverless cars, maybe environmental disaster. It's all just mafia telling you you're guilty, and you've got to pay them some indulgence if you want to be able to operate and live. Look at the Infowars.com articles. Obama Surgeon General pick. Guns are public health issue. See, England's about 2 steps ahead of us on this. They're about 5 years ahead of us. Here's the article from yesterday. Doctors forced to become state snitches to spot radical parents. And the mayor of London has called for anyone who's a nationalist or conservative to have their children taken. This is mainstream news. And by the way, they are taking them. Visitors that come, especially from Eastern Europe, who have the babies they can sell for 300,000, 400,000 pounds, are having their kids taken at the airports for no reason. So there's now emergency advisories going out not to travel to England because the CPS will grab your children at the airport. Or if you're seen yelling at your kids are gone. They'll be in a Saudi dungeon being gang raped pretty quickly. Now, continuing here, doctors forced to become, or they'll be with Savelle getting their throats slit with the prime ministers. Doctors forced to become state snitches to spot radical patients. And it goes on to radical, meaning anyone that disagrees with the government. So they're just government spies, and you're in a psych warfare meeting. Here's another one. This is in the U.S. Obama's Surgeon General pick. Guns are a public health issue. Murthy's organization calls for doctors to interrogate patients about guns in the home, including your children, and then, of course, call CPS on you, claiming that, oh, they're a doctor, they're a high priest wearing a white lab coat. You're the little lab rat, and so this is the guy he wants for attorney general. So, of course, this has been going on for a while, but that's what they're doing. By the way, here's that New York Times article. I didn't even know they'd been in the New York Times. I'd read it in AP. A new use for LEDs, mind control. biological specific lights to make you restful, sleep better, and not be depressed. Yeah, and they're giving the troops shots that cure them of depression after 7-8 tours. The virus, the live virus, actually eats areas of the brain. It's designed to go into certain chemical areas that have certain receptor sites. And Dad comes home and he's not upset anymore. He just does whatever Mom tells him. She says, go get this groceries. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, these troops are now coming back. And believe me, they're not depressed anymore because they're not humans anymore. Oh, by the way, it came out about a month ago in Wired Magazine. They're now admitting what I was already told years ago. They're brain chipping troops who sign waiver forms to not be depressed anymore. Guys, type in chips to help with PTSD or brain implants to help with PTSD. You know, I have a cousin who's just now got out of the military after 30 years. And last few years he was in secret operations in Mexico. And he says it's corrupt. He won't tell me everything about it. He says that's why he's getting out. And, of course, the State Department and Northcom run everything. But the point is that, oh, yeah, there it is. We've got all the articles about brain chips. I don't know if that's the one about PTSD and brain chips. That's blast to the head, primed brains for PTSD study says. No, the exact headline to pull it up would be implants to help with PTSD in troops. And then it's articles about brain implants. And it shows a guy in the chair getting a brain implant and how easy it is. Just a small hole, and then there's no more pain. Brain implants. But this is about 8 years ago. He goes, I got to apologize to you. We were having a little family reunion. He goes, they called us in, the officers, and said, special forces are going to be getting chips, but you're not allowed to tell anybody. And it's going to start with the non-commissioned officers. And then next time I asked anybody, he says, I'm not allowed to talk about it. Well, see, I went on air and told everybody they're putting chips in people at that time. Now it's admitted. That's for their safety, of course. And Mexican police are getting them. And the Attorney General got them, I don't know, 10 years ago in Mexico for kidnapping or whatever. But if you have the chip in Miami, you get into the Baja Beach Club, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's so trendy, it's so cool. And that's all South by Southwest is a big exercise in how to be chipped and how wonderful it is and how fantastic it is and how super duper it is. And my point is this is all just going on. They're now giving troops, quote, anti-stress vaccine that is a virus, I'm going to say this again, that literally goes into the area associated with spiritual experiences, euphoria, endorphins, creativity, higher brain waves, but also with depression, anger. Because you're supposed to be depressed and angry. You were used for 7-8 tours in a phony war to ship narcotics out of Afghanistan or whatever, when the government runs al-Qaeda openly. There it is. Pentagon wants to fit soldiers with a little box brain implant. Yeah, so you won't just be the depressed soldiers. It's going to be all the soldiers now. And you go see RoboCop, and it prepares you for that. What's wrong with a brain implant, boys and girls? 30 years ago, they were remote controlling cockroaches with a chip on their head. It was a larger chip back then. It was a wafer, I guess about 1/4 of an inch square, right on its head with a little antenna. They had robo-rats 30 years ago. Boom, 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 boom. Mother, tell your children not to walk my way. Father, do you want to bang heads with me? Do you want to feel everything? Father! We'll be right back. I'm Alex Jones. All right, if you go up to Infowars.com, I'm asking everyone to help us. If you go to Infowars.com, it's back to the top of the page. Armed Texans to march at South by Southwest. Bloomberg, the World Bank, sponsoring it, are here having anti-gun events to ban gun shows, private transfer of firearms, and, of course, their open goal to then finally register all guns and confiscate them as they've done in their command base in New York City, the globalist stronghold, the UN base. So there's going to be an armed march starting tomorrow, and then the big one is going to be on Saturday. Maps, details, Jakari Jackson's report. It's all up on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. In fact, guys, will you retweet it out? And say, Texans to march against Bloomberg's anti-gun tyranny. Or armed Texans to march against Bloomberg's victim disarmament. Something like that. Send it out with the article, please. At Real Alex Jones. Retweet it, everybody. Because Jakari and Leanne McAdoo are going to be down there tomorrow at the start of the armed march. And this is impromptu to kickstart the big one on Saturday. But I'd guess there's going to be 30, 40 people already that are saying they're going to show up with their firearms. And we've done this a lot. We did it at the Alamo, even though they said it was illegal in San Antonio. No, it's not. We have the state law on our side. We marched with the land commissioner armed. And we defeated the enemy by exercising our rights. We went and voted. We went and ate at the lunch counter. We sat at the front of the bus. And you can just go straight to hell if you don't like it. Anyways, hardcore human rights, God-given rights, true civil rights movement, true liberalism in Thomas Jefferson vein of guns and property and family and consciousness and free association tomorrow with Jakari Jackson, Leanne McAdoo, and the Patriots are going to be marching. I'm so excited. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I think I may go down there the more I think about it. Maybe I'm going to arm march with my M4. Maybe my 308 Reaper. Maybe I should march. Even that'd be a good workout with my Barrett 50 caliber. See how everybody likes that. Just in their face, freak out all the trendies. Show them what real liberalism is. Liberalism is not just the government has guns. I have guns. And look, nobody's getting hurt. And the criminals are scared. And police chiefs and the head of Interpol are saying, arm the citizens. It's true. Freedom. A lot of people in the system want freedom, folks, but we have to be the leaders. Let's go to Jakari Jackson's report. Get this video report and text report with the maps, everything. Get it out to everybody. And if you are in Central Texas, I want to see your butt down there at noon tomorrow. We're going to march down Congress from by the Capitol. Don't go on the Capitol because they'll claim some weird law about that and come after you. But the Austin police, Arde Soveda, his lordship, has said he will not go after anybody that is openly carrying unless they're rudely displaying. And that means have it pointed at the ground on your back, aimed down, because that is a law. And it's common law. You don't pull your sword out and wave it around at people. If a cop pulled his gun out and waved it around, he'd go to jail. If he did it randomly, at least he should in the real world. So, obviously good etiquette with everybody. But we're going to be marching. And Arde Soveda is, unless he gets orders from Bloomberg, he has said that he will abide by the Second Amendment. Because open carry does it all the time in Austin, has no problem. It's the state police that say, we don't care. We've been ordered by the feds who we serve. Do we have time to get to the Jackson's report now? We don't have time now. I'll get to it after Stallman leaves us. The video report's up on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. And I'm hitting refresh on mine. Can we put the article up on screen for folks out there? If it's up on Infowars.com. See, Supremes may block ban on high-capacity magazine. That's a Kurt Nemo story. We need to put a question mark in front of Infowars to force the refresh. And then there it is. Armed Texans to march at South by Southwest. March begins at high noon on Wednesday. March 12th at the corner of 12th Street and San Jacinto. Well, we wouldn't turn our guns in then either. First time there's been a speech in front of the Alamo since it happened in 1836, and I was there. And I could feel the animating spirit of liberty. Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, Bloomberg. In a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Eric Blair, a.k.a. George Arnold, 1948. Died 1949. Mark Twain. In the beginning, a patriot is a scarce man, hated and feared, and scorned. But in time, when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. The globalists tell us we have no power. Literally, Branson says, global warming deniers, get out of our way. That's the quote. You are a fraud with carbon tax. It is a criminal program you're part of, and you all need to be indicted at the highest levels. You scammers, and your carbon taxes are in trouble. They're faltering. Your whole program is going to hell in a Hades basket. You are going to hell in a hell basket. You are pathetic scum who've swindled most of your wealth. You are a degenerate, bug-eyed rat. Branson, any of you involved in this stuff are worms. And it's time for people to declare what worms you are. I'm going to air this report again later because some stations don't carry this first 5 minutes, some do. But here's Jakari Jackson on the open carry march at the degenerate, disgusting predatory, South by Southwest anti-gun, World Bank-financed takeover of Austin, Texas, squeezing the wannabe trendies who literally are wandering around like the undead zombos. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, it's just true. They do make a nice backdrop, though, of idiots. I'm sorry. It's so pathetic. I felt guilty calling them names today when I drove by downtown and saw some of them. It's unbelievable. They're all shuffling around like mind-controlled zombies. Let's go to Jackson's report on this. Here it is.
South by Southwest, the international festival showcasing advances in technology and new talent, is dragging us backwards in the ways of our civil liberties by promoting the likes of Michael Bloomberg and his mayors against illegal guns, and also Shannon Watts, the former Monsanto executive, and her moms demand action. Both groups were on hand the opening weekend of the festival to push their anti-gun agenda. During the event, the speakers boasted about their ability to take over sites such as Facebook, their success in placing gun chatter in the same category as porn. And as people have pointed out in the past, sometimes your presence on social media is more important to your campaign than how much money you can raise. And while some may attack our rights from the shadows, we exercise our rights in broad daylight. That's why this Wednesday, March 12th, armed activists will be marching through South by Southwest in defense of our civil liberties. And will be broadcast live on the Alex Jones radio show at 12 p.m. Central. And will set the stage for an even larger open carry event March 15th, that's a Saturday, where liberty-loving people will gather together to peacefully show their Second Amendment rights to an international community. Join us this Wednesday and Saturday at locations to be announced soon as we continue to bring the message of liberty and freedom to downtown Austin, Texas.
We're not turning our guns in, and we're not running, and we're not backing down. If you want them, come and take them. Love it. I mean, we are being usurped by degenerate criminal scum with a criminal instinct to disarm us, who try to control reality, how they're the trendies, and we got to do what they say. They're a pack of weak, chicken-necked criminal scum. Stop letting them dictate reality. Stop letting them sabotage humanity. Stop letting them jack with everybody.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
There goes that foreign agent. He is an officer in the Israeli military. Rahm Emanuel. People say, why are you bashing Israel? I don't want Russians being the White House chief of staff. I don't want Chinese military officers, the White House chief of staff. I mean, it's the same deal. This country is a joke, folks. We're totally overrun. Open borders. We're overrun by every corporation, every special interest. We are a joke, ladies and gentlemen, being looted up one side and down the other. And I'm sick of Emanuel. I was told he was down here pushing anti-gun crap. I mean, you come down to my house, you want my guns, you scumbuck. Ladies and gentlemen, the day after 9/11, George W. Bush, El Presidente, went and stood on the pile of smoking, deadly rubble. And then later he went and gave a press conference at police headquarters. Somebody ought to dig that video up. And he said, listen, we're going to be able to remote control planes now with the systems that are already on most Boeings, and we're going to be able to stop hijackers. And somebody behind him grabs him and jerks his arm and tells him classified in his ear. And I played that clip at the time, and I can't find it again. The archives are now digital. People need to find that. He gave a press conference. I think it was at police headquarters. It was somewhere in New York. I mean, a bunch of cops behind him and White House people. And the reason I raised that as we start this hour, about to go to a top technology expert, and privacy expert, and internet liberation expert. That's what I see the hackers as liberators. We're going to be talking to Dr. Stallman here in just a moment and quantify what is breaking into computers illegally versus hacking, that they've tried to demonize that word. I think it's important we stress that. You know, he really stresses that, and I agree with him. I want him as one of the top experts to explain the real nomenclature to us. But the reason I raise this, and I'm going to have Paul Watson or Kit Daniels or one of our Don Salazar, Mikhail Thalen, whoever wants to write it needs to do it, that they remote-controlled aircraft in World War I by radio control. John F. Kennedy's older brother, Joe Kennedy Jr., who was going to be the guy they ran for president, he blew up over Germany, flying a fighter plane rigged, piloting 2 remote-control B-17s loaded with explosives Oh, the Allies had cruise missiles as well, not just the Germans. And he got shot down reportedly by a bunch of German aircraft. But the point is that I told everybody on 9/11 you can remote control aircraft. And the only real phone calls that came out, this ties into Malaysia, then I'm going to go to my guest and get his take just on generally the NSA, everything that's happening, but also on this, because he's talked about hacking these smart devices in your house, in cars, the smart cars, the planes. The point is, in the 80s, they'd flown jumbo jets from California to Australia on record. So I would tell people about this, saying the only real airphone calls, not the fake calls that were 30,000 feet, the FBI later said there was no record of, with the Solicitor General's wife, that all came out. The real airphone calls said there's gas, we can't breathe. So my hypothesis is somebody gassed them, they remote control the aircraft. Regardless, that can happen. Now, we don't know what happened in Malaysia. Could have been a hijacking. They could have flown it somewhere else, changed the transponders. We don't know. Just like Larry McDonald, I'm going to cover this the next hour after our guest leaves us. Larry McDonald, Lawrence Patton McDonald, who was uber presidential material, a Democrat who was a John Bircher and anti-New World Order, and they were scared of him. He was going to end up being president. He was just an absolute, just 500 times, better than anything out there. And they landed his aircraft reportedly in North Korea and marched him off. And the word is he was alive until recently. But that was Flight 007. They redirected it. A bunch of congressmen got off. It was real suspicious when they flew out of Alaska. They definitely landed that aircraft, commandeered it, and it was a setup and some side deal with North Korea and the Russians. Very nasty, folks. The New World Order was so scared of Larry McDonald. I mean, he was the knight in shining armor. He was the deal. Super smart, super articulate, super good-looking, super patriot, super pure. They killed him. But I'm sure he was tortured a long time before that happened. Now, regardless, this new flight, and we're going to our guest, everybody wants me to talk about this, the Daily Journal of the United States Government, special conditions, Boeing model 777-200-300, remote control electronic systems, security protection from unauthorized internal access. These things are meant to be remote controlled, and they've been in there for decades, and I just wanted to point that out and do an article that this could be somebody hacking the aircraft. Pilots don't even know how to land now. That's why they're having more accidents, they said in the AP a few months ago, because they're doing it all by remote control. Soon the pilot's just going to be some vestigial guy who goes out and serves you hors d'oeuvres, because everything's being flown by remote control, by AI systems. Now, enough of that intro. I'm really honored for the balance of the hour, and if he wants to, we'll take some calls towards the end, to have Dr. Richard Stallman on, who tirelessly travels the world speaking out for free speech and internet freedom. He's a software developer and software freedom activist. He resigned from MIT to start the Free Libre Operating System, GNU, or I guess GNU. I'm not an internet guy. I just know who the guys are that try to keep it free. Millions use the system, but most think of it as Linux. Dr. Stallman also launched the free software movement. In October '85, he started the Free Software Foundation. He called for the development in '99 of a free online encyclopedia through the means of inviting the public to contribute to articles. So he's a total trailblazer, Renaissance man. Stallman pioneered the concept of copy left and is the main author of the GNU General Public License, the most widely used free software license. Since the mid-'90s, Stallman has spent most of his time in political advocacy for free software and spreading the ethical ideas of the movement, as well as the campaign against both software patents and dangerous extensions of copyright laws. Of course, Aaron Swartz did that, and I believe they actually killed him. Didn't just drive him to kill himself. He was saying he was going to fight it, just gotten engaged. We'll talk about that as well. Stallman.org or GNU.org. And folks, I don't get excited when I have a professional basketball player on, who we've had on. It's exciting. Or top Cowboys and stuff, who are on for political reasons. I get a little excited. But I get excited when we have a trailblazer. Even though I don't agree with his politics, I would get excited to have Ray Kurzweil on. He's a total genius. And so my rock stars are trailblazing people who also fight for freedom. And that's Dr. Stallman. Doctor, I don't mean to give a gushing intro here. Thank you for coming on during that. What do you want to stab at first in the world? I could ask a lot of questions, but where should we go first, Dr. Stallman?
Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Good. So it might be good to talk about what we know of government's massive surveillance of people in general. because we found out a lot about this since the last time I was on the show, if I remember right.
Yes, sir. So let's talk about it. The Snowden revelations, all of it, confirm what you've been saying.
Well, yes, and we should express our appreciation of Edward Snowden. So 3 cheers for Edward Snowden. Hip, hip, hurrah. Hip, hip, hurrah. Hip, hip, hurrah. We have to say that very often. I say that in my speeches and ask people to cheer him because they're the people who don't want us to know how they're mistreating us call Snowden a criminal, and they say he should be assassinated. We have to not just think that he's a hero, but say he's a hero and invite others to say so, to counteract the movement to demonize him. In any case, thanks to his heroism, we now know of many ways that the government collects data about people in general and then misrepresents, using twisted bureaucratic language to make it seem that that's not what they're doing. But that is what, thanks to the careful analysis done by journalists, we know that that's what the government is doing. And we just found out that many countries in Europe have made deals saying, we'll give you access to snoop on people through our systems as long as you promise not to use them to snoop on our citizens. Of course, they can't tell that that promise is being kept, but it doesn't even matter because if each country says you can use our digital systems to snoop on everybody except the people in our country, then they can snoop on anybody through the systems of other countries. So what does this imply? It puts democracy in danger. You see, the idea of democracy is that the people control what the state does, and that enables the people to have the state do the things that they want it to do and not do the things they don't want it to do. But in order to control what the state does, we need to know what the state is doing. And that's difficult when states act secretly. And in order to find out what they're really doing, we need heroes like Snowden, whistleblowers.
And we've got to defend him because if they can bring him down, they'll be able to sell the rollout of total surveillance publicly that was already there.
Right, exactly. They want to bring him down so as to scare anyone else from trying to tell us what the state is doing to us.
He was exposing criminal activity. He is a hero, and the criminals are saying they want to murder a U.S. citizen. This is outrageous.
Yeah, although, of course, under the First Amendment, you can say that you think certain kinds of people ought to be killed. You can't ask someone to actually do it. But, freedom of speech is pretty broad. And the point
but when it's government officials doing it, I think it crosses the line. It becomes very dangerous.
Maybe so. Well, in any case, it is dangerous. But for me, the crucial point is we want to defend Snowden and get it clearly established that we regard him as a hero, and clearly established that the government.
We need to celebrate Snowden. We need to celebrate him. We need to celebrate him, as you're saying.
Yeah. In any case, the point is the government doesn't want other people to tell us what the government's doing, and therefore it tries to demonize whistleblowers, prosecute them, but in order to do that, it has to figure out who they are. So this leads us to a conclusion. How much general surveillance can permit the existence of democracy? And the answer is, if there's enough general surveillance to find the whistleblowers, then we can't have democracy.
And we know the NSA on record is aimed at the media now and aimed at whistleblowers to suppress speech and people exposing crime. I want to come back with you, Dr. Stallman, after this quick break to continue your analysis. And then I want to get into not just the government, as you've pioneered exposing the corporations with all their spy tech and everything. Where is this going if we don't turn it around? How do we stop it? Stay with us. Alex Jones here, back live. Dr. Richard Stallman gnu.org, gnu.org, or stallman.org. A pioneer of internet freedom, free speech, inventor of really some of the only alternatives to the horrible operating systems and things that are designed to spy on us. And he joins us now. This is a 6-minute segment, long 18-minute segment coming up. He says he will take phone calls, so I'll give that number out coming up in the next segment, tech questions, internet freedom questions for Dr. Stallman. So where are we in the battle lines? I mean, it's not just the government, as you've said. It's everything from television sets to, quote, smartphones to smart meters to cars having black boxes that track us to taxes. They're just putting all these Trojan horses and everything openly and saying they're going to be able to predict the future and manipulate us and corner markets with all the stolen data. But it's really a revolution of the thieves and of the snoops to take over the culture. And then I guess you're one of the top generals out there fighting it. I mean, obviously you've spoken about Aaron Swartz, how they came after him. This is a war, is it not, Dr. Stallman?
Well, yes and no. First, I should fill in a gap in what I said in the previous segment. Why is it that this level of general surveillance is incompatible with democracy? It's because the level of general surveillance of people's communications makes it possible to identify the whistleblower. They can see which officials or staff people talked with a journalist, and that means they can find out who blew the whistle, and they can punish those people, and that's what makes them people scared to do it. So we must redesign digital systems so that they don't collect enough data to let the government find the whistleblowers. And that's a massive technological change that we need to make. Now, you've brought up the point that a lot of this surveillance is directly done by companies, and they do it mostly for their commercial reasons. They want to predict what sorts of things people will buy and so on, transforming advertising from a mere annoyance to something dangerous when they add the tracking of people to it. But the point is, the business surveillance of people is dangerous because the data they collect is available to the state. So they're like, it's that each business is like another tentacle of the state surveillance apparatus.
And they trade the baseball cards, and they all share in the data mining.
Yeah. So the point is, we have to redesign all of these systems so that they don't track what people are doing, except for those people who are the subject of a court order because there was some reason to suspect a particular person, and that authorizes investigation of someone.
Well, we always protected whistleblowers until just recently. We've seen an incredible persecution of legitimate whistleblowers.
Well, actually, we didn't always protect them. For instance, Daniel Ellsberg, Nixon tried to prosecute him, but the prosecutors made a mistake, and they had to drop the case.
Sure, I mean, but the press used to come to the aid more of whistleblowers.
Yes, that's true. And in addition, Obama has attacked whistleblowers with an energy unlike any previous president, or maybe even all. I think I read it was all previous presidents.
That's what I meant. There's an escalation.
Yes. And we also see many practices meant to invite people into being surveilled, like Facebook, like the car insurance companies that say they'll charge you less if you install the black box that records where your car goes. And then there are the navigator devices that record everywhere your car goes. If you buy a GPS navigator box to stick in your car on the dashboard, well, it records everywhere that you go, and if you ever connect it to the net to update the maps, it says where you went. How do you like that? And that's because it's not free software. See, that's how the surveillance connects with free software, because basically, the surveillance issue connects with the free software issue. With software, either the users control the program, that's free software, or the program controls the users, which is non-free, proprietary user subjugating software. Now, when I started the free software movement, it was because non-free software is an injustice in itself, of the fact that you can't have control over the program you're running. But ethical standards in the software industry have fallen over the years, and nowadays it's quite common for the developers of proprietary non-free software to put in surveillance functionalities and other malicious things like that.
Dr. Stallman, that is so important. When we come back, I'm going to give you the floor to talk about that, because not only is it now you're paying for the software that's spying on you, but it doesn't work well. I mean, I run a media company, and most of the equipment and stuff has spy grids and blockers on it where the stuff is useless because they don't. It's amazing. Stay with us. Dr. Richard Stallman is our guest. We're going to go back to him in just a moment in this long segment and get him to break down what he's saying. I mean, it's so simple, but it's also so important, and nobody thinks about it. The software controls you. And almost all the time when it doesn't work, it's because of the surveillance application. And by the way, we've bought all our software here other than the Linux GNU stuff that a lot of our stuff runs on. I'm no tech guy, but a lot of our guys are, big fans of what Dr. Stallman invented, the GNU system that's known as Linux. But expanding on that, it just, I buy a monitor in the studio and want to run video through it. And we've got to break into it and jack with it. You can't even buy them commercially that don't do this. You have to get specialists in and pieces of equipment just to run the video you want over it, because it doesn't see the code from the cable or from the Blu-ray disc telling you that it's authorized. Where I bought a television about 8 years ago that had a DVD player built into it. That DVD player broke. So I had an old DVD portable one in the garage. I plugged it into that in the garage so I could run on the treadmill. And it said, no, this device isn't authorized, copyright. And I deal with this all day long. And I've had software companies send us lawsuit threats, pay money, we know you stole this software. And I call the lawyer up and go, we bought all our software. And he goes, well, our system's picked up that you might have some stolen software. We're going to drop this. And the guy hangs up, and I call back the law firm, and I go, no, you're trolling to scare people to see if I'd send that money. And he goes, I'm not going to talk to you, and it hangs up. It's like Getty Images will send stuff out on Twitter that you can embed. And clearly, I've talked to lawyers. In the law, they've embedded it. They've made it embeddable. You can have it in your article because it's not on your site. It's their Twitter photos they put out and don't even tell you don't use them. Then they send you letters saying, give us a bunch of money. And most people crap their pants and pay them a bunch of money. Dr. Stallman, I'm ranting. It's just that this stuff really frustrates me.
I'd like to add to your rant, if I may.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about DRM, Digital Restrictions Management, which is found in some malicious hardware, like those monitors and Blu-ray and DVD players, and also in software. And in fact, often it's implemented by the firmware inside the product. Now, that is a malicious functionality, and it ought to be illegal. But why is it in there? It's in there because the software is non-free, because the users don't control it. If the users controlled it, they would fix the software so it didn't maliciously restrict them. So if their goal is to attack you by imposing restrictions, they have to first attack you by making the software non-free. Now, I don't think there's anything virtuous about paying for an authorized copy of a non-free program. You see, what's bad about the non-free program is that it's non-free. An unauthorized copy of a non-free program is a nasty thing because it's proprietary, because it's non-free. It's almost as bad as an authorized copy. And so I won't use either one. I reject them on principle.
No, I totally agree. My point is we play in their system, and then they still come after us.
Yes, they do. But please don't repeat their propaganda terms like stolen. They say that because they want to demonize sharing. But sharing is good. What's wrong is trying to stop people from sharing, which is what they're doing.
Quantify your view on that and explain the difference between hacking, which they've demonized as a term, versus criminal breaking into computers.
Oh, well, these are two different questions, and I can explain them both, but not at the same time. So the point is, software should respect your freedoms, and there are 4 freedoms you should have. Freedom 0 is the freedom to run the program as you wish for whatever purpose. Freedom 1 is the freedom to study the program's source code and change it to make it function for you the way you wish. Now, those 2 freedoms are enough to give each user separately control over the program. But this separate control is not enough because most people are not programmers and don't know how to exercise Freedom 1. They don't know how to study and understand source code or change it. So we need more than just this separate control. We also need the freedom to work together and exercise collective control, which means any group of people or companies or both, whatever, any group of users should be free to work together to adapt the program to do what they want it to do and then offer copies of that to others if they wish. And that requires 2 more freedoms. Freedom 2 is the freedom to redistribute exact copies of the program, copy it and distribute the copies to others. And freedom 3 is the freedom to copy your modified versions and distribute those to others. Those 2 freedoms allow the members of any group to work together and change the program to do what they want. So if you don't know how to change software, but you wish the program worked differently and it's free software, there will be others who are programmers who also would like it to work differently, and they'll change it, and then they'll make their version available to the public. And if they don't do this soon enough, you can join with other non-programmers to raise money and pay somebody to do it. Because there is business in the free software world, People are getting paid to develop free software.
And to maintain it and to tweak it.
Exactly. And so you can, if people want to pay you, you can take money to do it. You can also do it because you just feel like it. Those are, free software doesn't mean it's gratis. It doesn't mean nobody's paying anything or nobody's getting paid for anything. It means we all have freedom. Anyway, the other issue you brought up was that of hacking. And what does hacking mean? Well, it's one of those words that's had many different meanings. In the 1970s, when I joined the hacker community at MIT, sometimes it meant figuring out a clever way to do something on a computer. And sometimes it meant a prank. And sometimes it meant doing something that was surprising and funny. And sometimes the thing that was clever or surprising and funny might be in the area of breaking security on a computer. Of course, at that time, it wasn't for robbing anything. It was so that you could get access to the computer at night when it was sitting there going to waste because nobody was using it, and you had some school work or project you wanted to do. So you got around the security and you put the computer to use. Of course, there's nothing to say. My definition, which sort of summarizes all these things, is playful cleverness. Hacking is playful cleverness. And you're a hacker if you appreciate and enjoy playful cleverness. Perhaps your own, perhaps other people's, perhaps both.
All I've ever experienced from people that call themselves hackers is helping us on so many fronts. And then we've only had a few malicious things. And again, I wouldn't even call those people hackers. They were connected to government groups trying to censor us. So what do you call someone who's malicious against good people online?
When I speak of breaking computer security, I call it cracking. Now, that can be done for good or for evil. There are lots of people who break computer security in order to steal from people. Like there's this ransomware. It's a kind of malware that gets into people's computers and encrypts everything and says, we'll tell you how to decrypt it if you send us some money. Now, that's very bad. The people doing it, I would say, mostly are not thinking of playful cleverness. They just want some money. So I don't know if they're hackers, but they are crackers. So in other words, there are various different aspects of things. I wouldn't say that being a hacker intrinsically means what you're doing is ethical any more that it intrinsically means what you're doing is unethical.
Well, what about this, Doctor?
It's an orthogonal question.
Sure.
But lots of kinds of hacking are perfectly fine and don't hurt anybody. Lady Gaga's clothing is hacking.
Now, expanding on this, Dr. Stallman, I want to throw this out at you. We now learned Stuxnet was put out by the U.S. and Israel. They then used Stuxnet to try to pass cybersecurity, their false flag. We now learn the FBI and government infects millions and millions of computers to, quote, look for one bad guy. And so the old conspiracy theory that it was really government and corporations and virus companies putting out the viruses is now being proven.
Yeah. And that's a malicious conspiracy indeed. I don't know, I mean, maybe a little of it is hacking. A lot of it is cracking, breaking security. Now, my own hacking has not involved breaking security very much. That's not what I do. Occasionally, I found clever ways to turn off security in the systems that I administered. That didn't involve breaking any security. My access was authorized.
Interesting. Let me ask you this question. Back to the subject, because I don't think you had time to get to it. The phenomenon of what Aaron Swartz was doing and what happened to him, what is your overall thought on that tragedy?
Well, from what I've read about what happened, it looks like some people at MIT, when they saw that there was a laptop that was downloading lots of papers from JSTOR, I believe it was, they didn't know what was going on, so they thoughtlessly called the authorities, and the authorities were looking for somebody to kick to set an example of how horrible it was to violate terms of service. And they had this law, the CFAA, that they could stretch in that way. And so the prosecutors picked on Swartz. And the people at MIT, they didn't realize that that was going to happen. They didn't even know that it was Aaron Swartz at the time when they brought the authorities into it. And the lesson that people at MIT are learning is you better not bring the authorities into it until you know what's going on and you can decide whether it warrants that response.
That's right. You call the FBI in or the government in, you better have a really good reason because they will destroy people. Look, he was getting married. He said he was going to beat it in court. I know they said they drove him to suicide, but I think they realized they were making him a cause celeb, and I think they killed him physically.
I doubt it. And the reason is just that, according to people close to him, he'd had a tendency to depression, and so he'd thought about suicide before. It's plausible that he would have killed himself, even if the day before he wasn't feeling so down. Look, I don't know. I didn't know.
Well, you know, his father said the FBI, the Justice Department, killed my son, but he said drove him to kill himself. So regardless, they killed him.
Yeah, I mean, they were responsible for his death, but that's not to say that they directly killed him.
Sure. I wonder what it feels like for a top internet.
It wasn't so much the FBI, as far as I know. It was the prosecutors.
Sure. The prosecutors, to be technical, you're right. The FBI administered the case, ran the case, but then the prosecutors administered it. It's just a total tragedy that clearly this was an attempt at a chilling effect. But I don't think it worked. And, I think the answer is what you've said. Get outside the system, build new systems, try to promote the free software movement that you started. But also, for whistleblowers, it's the same thing. Stop complying. More whistleblowers. Overwhelm the system. Don't comply with anything, and that will bring it down.
Oh, but no, we have to do more than that. There are many systems that we use that don't belong to us. For instance, we're talking by a telephone call. The phone companies collect the information of who you talk with, and they make that data available to the government. We can't prevent that by developing our own parallel systems. ISPs, if if you have an ISP account, the ISP records all the connections that you make and makes that data available to the government. So it's almost impossible for us to avoid the government's knowing who we're talking to. And that's the crucial data. Remember, to find the whistleblower, the government needs to know who talked with a journalist. Even if they don't have any records of discussions, just identifying who talked with a journalist is enough to find the whistleblower, and then they can, of course, get that person's computers, study everything, and so on. The point is that we need to insist that these systems, which we don't own, be redesigned so that they do not keep dossiers about all and sundry. That requires legislation. We have to organize politically to demand that phone companies and ISPs not keep these long-term dossiers about us.
Exactly.
So
as a culture,
that the government can get about the past of a person who was not a suspect.
And that's why they always wanted to deny all this was going on, because they didn't want to have the debate, because they know morally they can't win the debate. So all we have to do is, like the organic food movement, vote with our dollars, vote with our actions, and we can reverse this surveillance state?
No, it's not enough to vote with our actions, because we don't have an alternative. There's nothing comparable to organic food for talking by phone. There's just no communications system available to us which we could use, and meeting in person may not do it because of license plate trackers that have been set up by the cops in lots of cities, and also by repo men. And the point is, we need legislation to restrict the license plate recognizers so that if your license plate is valid and there is no surveillance order out on you on your car in particular,
no warrant,
then the license plate recorder shouldn't see your car. It shouldn't notice your car. It should only notice the license plates that are not valid, or the people for which
exactly. You're then omitted.
Arrest warrant.
Which, by the way, as you know, over 1 million people in California that work for the government, they are omitted because they work for the government. Their license plates aren't seen.
I didn't know that, but that's interesting. So basically that means the only people who... Well, actually, that's interesting, because if they work for the government, that means they won't be seen, which means that they can blow the whistle. Maybe, if they're not caught some other way. So I suppose in some ways that's good, but the point is we all shouldn't be seen.
Exactly. Stay there, Doctor. Stay there. Final segment. You know, I do it a lot. I hogged all the time with Dr. Stallman. We're not going to take any calls. He's leaving us in about 6 minutes. And then I'm going to get into the Malaysia flight. Big info on that front. A bunch of other political news. There is just so much of it. The big scandal, obviously, now is that the Senate is being spied on by the CIA with the NSA systems, and that they broke into their computers. This is just lawlessness, and it's a Pandora's box. No matter how powerful these technologies are, humans are always going to end up using them for their own petty reasons, and it will be abused. There's a reason we know that East Germany was an authoritarian hellhole. There's a reason we know North Korea is an authoritarian hellhole. There's a reason we know Nazi Germany was an authoritarian hellhole, and Soviet Russia was an authoritarian nightmare. We know what the forms of abuse look like, the forms of oppression. And surveillance illegally without warrants is the essence of it. It's the blood of it, the ether, the oxygen. On every front, we're going into authoritarianism. Now, there's a lot of countervailing and counter movements, as Einstein said, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. And Dr. Stallman is a manifestation of that since the 80s when he left MIT to pioneer so much of what is the only alternatives today. And it's a testament to the power of the individual. And we need more people who are brains to not serve DARPA in the New World Order and to serve humanity. And it's much more fulfilling. I'm here to tell you, I'm an open source guy off the plantation who just wants to be free. That's what makes me happy. I'm not perfect. I'm not on a high horse. But my gut is in the right place. My heart's in the right place. In closing, Dr. Stallman, GNU that you invented that grew into Linux, all these other systems.
Well, actually, no. It's pronounced GNU.
GNU, I know.
It didn't grow into Linux. Linux is one component that's used with the GNU system, so the right name for it is GNU plus Linux.
Sure, I mean, I'm an internet dummy.
People are using, and if you call it GNU plus Linux, you're helping us. Another way to help us is don't say open source, say free software. Open source is the slogan used for co-opting our work and hushing up the ethical aspects of it. In 1998, there were people in the free software community who really contributed, but they disagreed with our ethical, political approach to the question. And they wanted it to be forgotten. They wanted to talk about the same software, but hush up the political side of it. And so they invented the term open source. Well, your politics are up to you. You can say whichever you like, but you can, if you say free software, you're helping us. For more information about this, look at gnu.org/philosophy. And if you want to help our cause, look at gnu.org/help.
Well, it's very exciting, and what you've done with GNU, that I mispronounce GNU, I mispronounce everything. It's part of what I do. I just know from all my tech people and the stuff I read in the tech publications that it's so important, and one of the only things that is somewhat free of all this control. In closing, what concerns you most, briefly, and then what makes you most optimistic?
Well, what concerns me is the tendency to make technology more and more malicious. It's a mistake to equate malware with viruses because lots of products are designed to be malware. For instance, the iThings from Apple and Windows phones and tablets, they've taken the malware to the point where they are designed as platforms for censorship of apps. On an iThing, it can only install the apps that Apple approves of and has put in the App Store. The only way to avoid that, to get an escape from that, is with jailbreaking. Now, that term, which was coined by the users themselves, is very interesting. It's a recognition that those products are jails. And now the Microsoft things are the same. So this ought to be illegal.
I'll tell you what, Doc, this is a 1-minute break. Come back and do 5 more with us so you can finish up the jailbreaking and then talk about the positive stuff that's happening, just briefly. All right, final segment with Dr. Stallman, then a huge news blitz and tons of special reports and more coming up. But I want to know about solutions. And I'm a media guy. I know how media works. I know how politics work. All the nuts and bolts of internet, I'm not too savvy on. I just know the basics that everything is a surveillance grid. And I read what the top experts over the years have put out on that and exposed with the Telecommunications Act, you name it. It was all right there, what was really going on. So I know the conclusions of what's going on more than most. The nuts and bolts, not so much. But Dr. Stallman, you were getting into jailbreaking that organically came out of the community, that term, and that is what's happening. I mean, we're trying to jailbreak out of these systems that are being designed to social engineer by what I call the eugenicist movement. That's really what all of this comes out of, this control freak mentality. But in closing, you were getting into positive and negative things that are happening. Go ahead.
Yes. For freedom in your own computer, you've got to reject non-free software. There shouldn't be any installed in your computer. And the products that depend on non-free software, they're threats to your freedom, and you shouldn't use them. I don't have a portable phone because first of all, they're full of non-free software, and second, they're tracking devices, and I don't want to be tracked. I pay cash. That's another. I don't pay through credit cards or debit cards because if I did, I'd be tracked. I resist surveillance directly with my own decisions, but at the same time, I realize we're not going to win that way. We need to organize. We need to pass laws to reduce the level of surveillance we have, to reduce the malware that we have, and to make it easier for free software to be used in the computers that we get, that are made. The computers that are made should be usable with free software. And that requires organizing. And if you want to join the Free Software Foundation, go to fsf.org. You can join through there. That's one way you can support our cause.
Are you optimistic in your gut that humanity is going to be able to turn this around?
I'm a pessimist by nature, and therefore I don't even ask the question. There's no point in not fighting. Surrendering leads immediately to defeat. It's futile. The only thing to do is do our best. So I don't care whether whether it looks hopeful or hopeless. I'm going to fight anyway.
Because that's the human thing to do.
I can't see the future. I don't know whether we're going to win because it depends on you.
Well, that's right. In my gut, I know we're going to win, but it's going to be rough. It's going to be hard, but we'll be stronger on the other end of this incredible journey we're all on. But it is the animating contest of liberty. Fighting tyranny and being involved is what makes you human and alive. People think avoiding conflict with oppressors is the way to win. It's not. What's empowering, just like exercise, is to engage in the animating contest. Dr. Stallman, thank you so much for all the time.
Thank you, and happy hacking.
Happy hacking. Dr. Richard Stallman, very nice to come on our show, stallman.org. Really an amazing guy, a trailblazer on every front. There is no doubt about that. You know, some of the trendies out there and people, you know, make jokes he's got long hair, as a absent-minded professor. But it's very interesting. You know, that guy basically came up with a Wikipedia idea, a free software movement, Gnu, I always say Gnu, that came into Linux, all of it. I mean, it's just, and that's just some of it. And that guy's like Ray Kurzweil. He came up with a lot of stuff. And the names we use, and so many of the organizations and movements that if we didn't have them, there'd be no somewhat free internet now. They would have already have internet taxes, internet IDs. They're trying to do it, but people like Stallman, they're holding it back. We wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have this platform to fight these guys. It wasn't for people like him. So we owe Dr. Stallman a debt of gratitude. I mean, I just admire freedom fighters. I admire trailblazers. Monday through Friday, folks. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. We are here. And I really appreciate you joining us. I'm going to open the phones up in this hour for first-time callers. On the Malaysia flight, I love a mystery as much as anybody, and this is a bunch of missing people. The Washington Post now reports the cell phones are active and are contacting and reading their email and going back and forth. And Mike Adams has a great article from naturalnews.com that's up on Infowars.com that says the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 begins to demand supernatural explanations. By the way, CJ, to his great credit, no one's been able to ever find this. I had it on tape, taped it on VHS back on September 12th or whatever it was on 9/11, day after. And I saw Bush say we can remote control the jets and fix it. And they grabbed his arm and said, classified. You could see him lip sync it. You couldn't really hear it over the mic. But they're like, classified. And I was getting made fun of. Nobody can remote control planes. There's no such thing as drones. I mean, they only had them in World War I. I mean, come on, 1918. So they had submarines in 1777 that Benjamin Franklin worked on to blow up British ships. People don't know anything, folks. Civil War had submarines all over the place blasting at ships. Real subs. People just don't know. I mean, it's Buck Rogers, folks. The government's 40 years advanced, stealing all our data, stealing our ideas, and then thinking they're God when they're a bunch of thieves, a bunch of control freak scum. So I want to break this down and go over it, but Jordan was able to find it. PBS, Bush announces new airline security measures to remote control aircraft by remote control from the air traffic control. So he found an article where they quote Bush about we can remote control planes from the air traffic control tower. I told him, shut up, because as best I know, I talked to folks that were at a Republican fundraiser right after it happened, and some high-level people, and they said Marvin Bush was off record. We also got some of this on tape in another speech he gave about Bush running around the bunker in his underwear because they're making fun of their brother, because that's what brothers do. And Bush was actually scared running back into the bunker at night and wouldn't come out of the bunker. So does that sound like a guy who actually did 9/11? No, obviously the teleprompter reader, who couldn't even read a teleprompter, I'm not saying did it himself. Criminal elements, folks, clearly. There were drills. The hijackers thought they were part of drills. We know the drills were happening, live drills that they've been doing weeks before. James Woods is a witness to that, but we know about the drills. We know they were trained at U.S. bases. We know that the head of the Defense Language School went public and said that all I know is Muhammad Atta and 3 other guys were in my class. Something's going on. There's a cover-up here. That guy they say is the lead hijacker had a high-level U.S. government security clearance. And then it came out from the embassy heads, and we had them on, Springman, where they were ordered. Hey, these are terrorists with al-Qaeda. They're just at an al-Qaeda summit in Malaysia, of all places, coming back through Saudi Arabia. We're not going to let them fly. And they said, national security. I don't care. I'm not issuing it. CIA calls. Says this is an order from the State Department. They work for us. That's their terror designation is a cover. You just keep adding it and adding it and adding it. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know they didn't want Bush talking about remote control, and I know that the phone calls the FBI had to admit were not made. I'll repeat this. The Solicitor General said that his wife called him and confirmed the hijacking and everything from her personal cell phone at 33,000 feet. Folks, I do it every time I fly, more than 50, 60 times since 9/11 or more. The phone always cuts out at 3,000 to 5,000 feet. Whether I fly out of England, whether I fly out of New Jersey, whether I fly out of Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, or Canada, or Central America, phones don't work above 3,000 to 5,000 feet. A few times I've been in mountainous areas, whether it's mountain towers, and you take off from a valley, and then you go up to 10,000 feet, and the cell towers are there, and you can still work. If you're up at 10,000 feet in the mountains and they got towers, it'll still work. Sometimes, barely. The phones do not work at 33,000 feet. And last year when the FAA started saying, maybe we're going to allow cell phones on planes, everybody went, oh my gosh, Alex, you're discredited. See, they're going to work at 33,000 feet where they get above the weather, the cruising altitude. And if you read deeper, it's just like when you're on a cruise ship and you can use your cell phone. It jacks through its system to a satellite. You're not cell phoning from the Gulf of Mexico, 1,000 miles away from Galveston if you take a cruise ship. I've gone on family cruises, and end up doing my radio show from a cell phone, or do 30 minutes on the show if there's breaking news, $1 a minute, on the ship, phone in the ship, not even my cell phone. But you could also walk around on deck on your cell phone, and it jacks through to the satellite. It's patching you through, folks. The cell phone is not working from 1,000 miles away from the tower. The public is so ignorant. Like they even saw headlines, FAA is going to authorize cell phones. That shows up the 9/11 truthers. I mean, the level of these hit pieces, they're so thin. I want to explain this. The FBI, to their credit, you can look this up, it was in mainstream news, but buried, said there were no phone calls to the Solicitor General because it turned into a media investigation. The media did FOIA requests. And the FBI, I was surprised, released it and said, no, we checked his phone records. We checked that too. We didn't believe it. And she didn't call him. Nobody called on their cell phones with all these government people who all had witnesses. Oh, I'm so sad about my wife. By the way, they landed Flight 93 at a military base hangar. That even came out in the news. People all saw it, people getting off. Shame tell numbers. They went, oh, just never mind that. Then something blows up over Pennsylvania. I mean, this all came out, folks. I don't know what's going on. I know in Operation Northwoods, 1961, L.L. Lemnitzer's plan to bomb D.C., bomb U.S. military bases, shoot people in movie theaters, commit bombings at public events with plastic explosives. Boston bombings coming up, the anniversary here in April. I think I'm going to send reporters up there. In fact, I don't think I'm doing it. I'm sending someone. We'll send Badandi, too. Did a great job, and then we'll send a crew up there to help him. Long story short, just there's hundreds of pieces. None of them fit. The official story is fabricated from pillar to post, up one side and down the other. It's all a fraud. No one made the cell phone calls. They claim there were over 15 of them. The only ones that were real were not one, but two air phone calls by stewardesses with their credit cards, panicking, saying, someone's taking over the plane, they've got a bomb, and there's smoke. gas, can't breathe. That's the transcripts. That's what people said they heard, and those phone calls were made to family and to the airports. Is it 2 or is it 3 calls? I'm sure it was 2. Even know the names. One was an Asian lady. The point is that they nerve gassed them. It's clear. You got guys that think they're part of a drill to cover the fact that you have hijackers. They release a gas, remote control the aircraft in the building, and look, he found it. Bush announces new airline security measures, 9/27. So I guess this somehow got put weeks later into a transcript about it, but I saw Bush give this press conference and them grab him and tell him, shut up. It's a sensational video. Somebody's got to find it. I had it, and it's lost in the myriad labyrinth. The president said the new security measures would also dramatically increase the number of plainclothes federal marshals on airplanes, give $500 million to develop enhanced cockpit security, and enable traffic controllers to take over a distressed aircraft and land it by remote control. Bingo. Remember, though, this doesn't exist. Remember, ladies, oh, you found the video? You're kidding. You found Bush. Oh, my God, this is going to be incredible. I haven't seen this in...
And to provide greater security for travelers by bus and by train. This bill sets a 1-year deadline for the transition to the new system. It gives my administration the flexibility we need to make that transition work. Ultimately, this bill offers local authorities the option to bring in outside experts, a method that's worked well in Israel and Western Europe.
This is a later speech when he repeated it.
Meet our rigorous new safety
this is not in New York.
Requirements.
See, he's got the transportation secretary behind him.
Security comes first.
Panetta.
The federal government will set high standards, and we will enforce them. These have been difficult days for Americans who fly and for American aviation.
All right, we're gonna find that queued up during the break. I got excited about it. They just threw it up. They've got the transcript from C-SPAN. They're trying to find the part in the video. The point is I said all this at the time, and the media made fun of me. It's like, he says there's automobiles have been invented in 2001. I'm like, yeah, automobiles are real. They're like, shut up, smart guy. So my point is about this disappearance of the Malaysian airline. It could have been remote controlled. It could have been landed somewhere, because in Operation Northwoods, getting back to that, they say we'll put CIA people and their families on who don't mind having their identities changed, and we'll have one aircraft take off that lands somewhere else at a military base. Another will take off that's remote controlled, and we'll blow it up, and we'll blame it on the Cubans and basically start World War III. So that was part of the plan. So there was a bunch of tech people, a bunch of government people on. We don't know what happened. These 2 Iranian guys look like deep cover paramilitary types who aren't meant to look like badasses but are. So I'll say that. The photo doesn't look good. Probably a hijacking. And it's a big ocean out there, folks. All right, we'll be right back. General Richard Myers was asked if there was a program to remote control hijacked jet aircraft and land them. And he said, yeah, there's a classified program the U.S. and the Israelis have. Folks, all the Boeings going back 20 years ago and most of the other big aircraft have remote control, wireless computer hubs in the software. And all the pilots know this. It's in the specs, just like it's in the specs that your TiVo and your digital cable boxes track everything you watch and create a database for 20 years. It's been going on for at least 20 years since digital cable boxes. People still think that's a conspiracy. It's very childlike. Even until about 5 years ago, people would come to my house and see a Band-Aid over the camera on a computer and go, why do you cover that up? You think they're watching you? And even when it was in the news they're watching people, people still think it's weird to be informed. And it's so frustrating. So here's the Air Force general talking to Congress on C-SPAN about remote controlling of aircraft. Because, see, if they can remote control them, they can nerve gas everybody and remote control them into the buildings. And all it takes is a very small group of people that have the codes to do it. And then the rest of the military thinks, hey, Muhammad Atta and all these guys got on the planes. They're taking part in the drill, which we know is going on. See how that works? Let's go to the clip.
As you know, the Israeli Air Force has exercised, practiced, and developed techniques for dealing with hijacked aircraft.
9/11 Commission, John Lehman.
For instance, they carry special missiles that are not to destroy, designed not to destroy airliners, but to force them to land. Missiles with inert warheads and other sophisticated gear. What have you guys done to equip our Air Guard and other NORAD potentially assigned units with the training, with the rules of engagement, and the hardware that gives them an option other than what we have now, which is just passengers?
I'm aware of at least...
Guys, let's go to the program. Why'd the audio fade out right there? I'm totally confused right now.
Talk about it offline or provide you the classified paper.
Back it up. We're going to get this right.
Talk about it offline.
Hit pause. Back it up to the beginning of Myers. Okay, I'm not mad. I heard the audio fading down. I don't understand. Let's go ahead and try it again. Go ahead and play the clip.
Missiles with inert warheads and other sophisticated gear. What have you guys done to equip our Air Guard and other NORAD potentially assigned units with the training, with the rules of engagement, and the hardware that gives them an option other than what we have now, which is just to destroy the aircraft and all its passengers?
I'm aware of at least one program which is classified, so we can either talk about it offline or provide you the classified paper on it. There may be others to do exactly that.
Okay, and then people say, oh, no, they're talking about missiles there. No, they're not. Here's Bush in PBS. Bush announces new security measures to enable air traffic controllers to take over a distressed aircraft and land it by remote control, okay? That's what the program is. That's what's going on. And every time I mention that, people try to conflate it with the missile comments, which just magically happened again. But we are watching the full Bush 30-minute speech to find in the transcript where that was said, and we may get it by the end of the show today. But we're going to see what happens with that. Now, I want to get your take on the Malaysia situation. And what do you think's going on here? It is very interesting. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. And we will get you up and on the air for first-time callers. And we're talking about the Malaysia situation, not the IRS, not Ukraine. Just want to be clear. We're talking about the Malaysia aircraft. I want to hear what you have to say. I have a few ideas that I'm going to throw out there. Everybody loves a mystery, and it is a good brain teaser. Plus, a lot of folks may be dead or disappeared here, obviously. We know they're disappeared. Speaking of Ukraine, the new arms race has begun. The new Cold War has begun. Poland wants to host more U.S. troops for security now that the George Soros-backed group has overthrown the Ukraine-elected government. And now things are escalating. Again, I'm not saying Russia's perfect. The West is stirring this up, quarterbacked by you-know-who. Kremlin critic seeks residency in Switzerland. Ukraine may have to go nuclear, says Kiev lawmaker. Now they want nukes or to bring nukes in. You see why Russia's concerned, folks? This is a big deal. Russian troops seize hospital, missile base in Ukraine, Crimea. Yeah, those are Russian-built bases. Russia stares down UN pressure on Ukraine. Russia has refused to budge from its seemingly imminent annexation of Crimea, defying Western pressure at the UN Security Council as Ukraine ousted president prepares to make his first public appearance in more than a week. So we'll follow that, but I want to get your take on the situation with the aircraft. 800-259-9231. I'm Alex Jones.
We're on
the lies and disinformation. By the way, I don't gripe at the crew a lot behind the scenes. I end up griping at them on air. And I just want you to know they weren't messing up earlier. I shouldn't go to clips I haven't seen yet because I have the transcript of Bush here talking about the remote control aircraft, and I knew I'd seen that. And so it was interesting to find it on PBS. They went and tried to find the press conferences, but some of them are 30, 40 minutes long. They're trying to find the spot. I'm saying go to it. And then I'm like off air saying, while the clip's playing, I'm saying no more. Guys, don't play clips even if I call for them if I haven't seen it yet. We don't need to have a rush and then play the wrong clip. So they thought no more and then faded the clip down. And then I go, put the clip back on. So it's fun. But listen, this is real TV, folks. It's like we've had Tucker Carlson here who's been on CNN, Fox, MSNBC. And the same thing when we had Ben Swan, who's been in a lot of stations. He said nowhere on TV are they Johnny on the spot. Go right to a news article. Go right to a video clip. It's all scripted. So it looks very smooth because most of it's a teleprompter loaded in New York City that they read locally.
Hey, Alex.
Yes.
This is John Bound right here.
This is not, by the way, this is not teleprompter.
I just want to quote Ghostbusters here to clear the air.
Yeah.
Listen, you smell that?
I do.
Listen, smell that?
I do smell that.
That's the confusion of
absolutely. No, but I mean, it's good. That's why people like it, is because it really is real. Including us strangling each other in the control room. I'm just joking. No, it's crazy, too, to be around this information all day and to really be focused on it. Okay, I'm going to go to your phone calls, Steve, Mike, Randy, Chad, Tony, and others. But first, Leanne McAdoo went down to talk to the South by Southwest zombies. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying... I'm going to get to that in a moment. I keep forgetting. I've done 2 hours, 35 minutes today by the seat of my pants. For whatever reason, I'm unable to focus on all the news. Sometimes people say that's my best radio shows. I don't know. I like the shows where I neurotically cover news for 3 hours. But I'm in kind of preacher mode today. And I've done 2.5 hours and have not plugged any products or any T-shirts or anything that we sell at InfoWarsStore.com. A, everything we sell is high quality and it's about getting the word out and fighting tyranny. B, it's really good products for everybody. That's kind of A. But C, it funds our operation. We don't like to be beholden to sponsors. Quite frankly, there's not a lot of sponsors that are high enough quality for us to even accept them. And I'm kind of neurotic about that. I only sell things I really believe in. And if you go to InfoWarsLife.com, we are about to sell out of Super Male Vitality. And it will be probably 2-3 weeks until we get more of it in. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's going to sell out. Then it'll be back ordered. We have a special going 15% off. When it sells out, the special will go bye-bye. And by the way, this isn't hype. People say, really, Alex? A minority of folks, but I'd say 20-30% a vocal minority in the comments on YouTube and InfoWars when there's a video or something about this posted. They go, really, man? You claim you got male enhancement drops? Really? Yeah, you bet. 8 superpower herbs concentrated that will blow your frickin' socks off. It costs us, depending on how we get the wet herbs shipped in and everything, organic, certified and everything, between $10 and $20. It varies each process when they make it. I could put out a male enhancement herb that would give people some effect for like $5 is what it would cost me instead of $20. Nobody puts out products that cost $20. I'm about to buy a product for mitochondrial DNA that nobody else is putting out. My dad was developing it for, I'm not going to get into it. The point is that we're going to put it out. It's going to cost us $60 a bottle to get this pharmaceutical grade stuff. And I'm just giving you an idea of products that are coming out, the type of stuff we're doing, okay? So yeah, when it costs $120, that's because it's going to cost us $60, and we've got to have R&D money and all the other money and money to fund all the operations. That's the kind of stuff we're rolling out, is really powerful stuff, okay? And this Super Male Vitality, I don't know if I'm even allowed to tell the story. The point is, everyone in the office, we don't advertise it as an aphrodisiac. That is not the intention. It is male vitality, to get healthy, to have energy to work out. It doesn't have any testosterone mimickers like most of the herbs they push at GNC and the rest of it, which do work, by the way, but have problems and breaks down and retrogrades into other hormones and causes stuff. This is designed to block estrogen mimickers, A, B, get your body to release its own growth hormone and testosterone. That's what Group says it does. I don't know what it's doing. I went and looked up each herb, did research, had other medical people look at it. They said, no, this is all super high quality. This is the 8 things known, to be really clean, really good, and that are FDA, what they call GRAS certified, meaning it's seen as safe. And it's the proprietary way it's concentrated. And you fund the operation and just buy a bottle. Buy a bottle, and what are you out? You've supported the broadcast. By the way, no negative reviews of this or the iodine or the fluoride shield. I think the fluoride shield is the best product, and it's double the size of the survival shield. It has the nascent iodine in it and 5 other key things to chelate and detoxify the body of heavy metals, fluoride, you name it. It sells good, but nothing like the Survival Shield and the Male Vitality. And I don't know why, because it's the best deal for the price and what I really like taking and has really helped me detoxify. I mean, it's incredible. With my stressful lifestyle and staying up till 3 in the morning sometimes and everything I do, and I'm just seething with energy. Now, everybody I know says, like Shane Steiner and Rob Dube, will you bring Rob in here and see if I can tell a story? Just bring Rob Dube. This was not planned. He's on the other side of the building, if he's even here. And then I'm going to go to this report in your calls. I'm going to have to do some overdrive, folks. Steiner was getting irritable doing his powerlifting naturally. And then he went on this. He can work out even harder and is in a good mood. Dew has had the same effect. He's made him in a good mood and had the other effects that I get permission to talk about. And everybody else. Me, I got to be honest, I'm the only person I know who can't take my own product, or I take like half of it. I take like every other day or half a dose once a day because it does make me even more aggressive. And I guess that's how my physiology is already. But it makes me irritable. So check with your doctor or healthcare provider first before you take it. And it's not a game. It's not a joke. And people are always, mad. If I sell a magazine at cost, it's bad. Or if I sell T-shirts made in America at $10 less than you could get them anywhere else made in America, the Molon Lambe. Or if I exist, it's bad because they want to demonize the liberty movement funding itself with high-quality products. We are funded by you. We are funded by you supporting the local AM and FM affiliates. We are funded by you being sponsors of local stations, spreading the word. We are funded by viewers and listeners like you. Mainly listeners. The visual component of the show dominates everything, but really, first and foremost, it's a radio show. Now, on a stack of Bibles, this was not planned, correct?
Totally correct, yeah. You just called for me. And
Do you even know what you're here? Were you listening to the show?
I think it's a super male thing. I think you're
even though you guys are not supposed to watch the show back there, you're supposed to work on the nightly news?
Right.
Anyways, regardless.
We keep it on.
Head of the news department, what has Super Male done for you?
It's done a couple things. One, I guess I've been taking it about 2 weeks now. I think it was after we shot that interview.
There was even some eye rolling around here when I was coming out with it.
I'm like, whatever.
What, do you think I'm going to put a joke out?
No, but it works differently on different people, as you've attested. And it was after we shot that.
Let's just be honest. It's probably not good for me.
Did you call it barbarian juice?
Yeah, go ahead.
So after we shot that interview, I said, oh, you know what? We had an open thing. I said, I'm going to start taking it. So I started taking it 3 dropper fulls in the morning, 3 in the afternoon.
You're taking more than you're supposed to.
Yeah. And it really, in the morning, you have that kind of fog when you wake up. I do that. The fog goes away in about 5 minutes. And I'm thinking clearly, and I feel like I don't feel overly abundant of energy like when I drink.
Because you're irritable sometimes.
So, oh, yeah, I can be very irritable.
You're known as Lucifer around here.
Yeah, it's definitely mellowed me out a little bit. And I started doing, over the weekend, I installed a pull-up bar. And like every time I'll go into my office, I just start doing like 5 or 6 pull-ups.
And it wasn't placebo, right? You were telling me this morning you did it to see if it was bull.
Yeah, I wanted to check it out, see if it had any effect on me. Because I use the Survival Shield as well. And I like it. And I've definitely noticed that. Had some changes, and so started on the Super Male, and I mean, I tell you, it definitely worked for me, and it didn't give me like this hyper energy. It just nice, smooth energy, and it tastes good. It does, it definitely tastes.
See,
like
I was out late last night.
Tastes pretty good,
and I took some this morning, and then I feel really aggressive. It definitely does something to me.
You should probably do half a dropper full. I mean, I do 3, and I don't really. Notice I don't notice an adrenaline surge or anything, but it's like it's like a slow ramp up of energy, and I'm definitely a believer after that. But
now, what about the classified part? Can we talk about?
I'd rather. Well, my bedroom life didn't need any enhancement before this, but I'll just
people are begging for mercy.
My wife asked that I stop taking, so I'll just leave it at that.
No.
I love you, babe.
No. We're not. The thing is, this is real, okay? But the issue is women can take it, too.
I've been trying to get her to take it. She hasn't done it yet.
Just put it in her tea. The government forced drugs is why not?
That's true, yeah. I have to put filters in my water to get the fluoride out, So it's
There might be a fourth son now?
It definitely works. Well, if there is, that's great. You know, I won't.
You got 3 great sons.
Yeah.
I got 2 daughters and a son, but I got to tell you, it's something about 3 boys. They are great boys.
It's an army.
They all have electricity in their eyes, too.
Yeah.
Most of the kids look like zombies nowadays.
They're definitely awake, and my oldest is really awake, and he always brings back stories from stuff that happens, and he's like, they were talking about this at school today. I said, well, you know, how does that make you feel? He's like, it's just weird because people will agree with it, you know, and just the different things that they roll out, but it's good to see. I think when you're awake, you can recognize those things, and you're not enveloped by them. You know, you're not just taking in like, oh, like the people at South by, how they just go get their faces scanned for these badges and it's no big deal.
But listen, I'm glad that a minority of people have complained. How dare you, sell something for male vitality? Well, they're bombarding our male vitality. They're putting stuff in the Food and Water on record and writing books about how they're doing it to demasculate us. And so if it has the effect of blocking that, at least partially, why shouldn't we do that?
Well, I think if the haters hate the stuff about super male vitality, they're really going to hate the next ad that rolls out, which is even better. I'll just leave it at that. And we'll have, I think, a sneak preview next week of one, and should be pretty awesome.
We should do it just with the comedy part.
More awesomer.
Even more awesomer. To quote Mike Adams.
So, yeah, I think
describe what the ad, just give them a sneak peek of what's coming up with the ad that I...
Well, we actually, on camera, were able to film Dr. Group making an amazing transformation. An amazing transformation by taking the super male and then activating it with push-ups. It was pretty, I was blown away. I couldn't believe it.
It is satire. And, of course, it's open, over-the-top satire.
People should try it. Get one bottle and try it and see what you think. There's a lot of comments in the videos of people who had tried it and said it works. You know, usually the haters are just, they're not going to try it anyway.
No. But, I mean, I get it because there's a lot of stuff out there. But quite frankly, a lot of when I played football and then I started getting into weightlifting heavy in college, I never took any drugs. But I would go to, like, GNC and get a Yohimbe bottle. And, yeah, man, it would make me get bigger. But I would also have hot flashes and feel crazy and just like my heart would be, I mean, I was like, whoa, I took it for like a week. Yeah. And then I tried something else and it made me feel so maybe it's just me because this stuff doesn't do anything like that. It does make me more aggressive. It's just that I know most of those herbs and stuff actually do stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plants, folks. I mean, that's where most medicine comes from.
There's 8 herbs in it? 8 herbs and fruit. Well, it's roots and fruits that are mixed together.
Concentrated.
Right.
It's concentrated. That's the key is this is really concentrated in a cold press.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like a ton of stuff. The essence of it.
Well, you can feel the power in it when when I've had.
But what I'm saying is I never really liked all that stuff.
Right.
And then they were like, hey, you ought to do this. We're developing. I'm like, no way. And then I took it. I'm like, wow, this is really real. And it doesn't make me feel, too insane.
Yeah.
But then everybody else took it when we had the test vials and they liked it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I will private label this and put it out officially, your new formula. And people love it. I'm just saying, I only put out stuff I believe in. It really is good.
It definitely works.
I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well, it definitely works. But one thing you could do when you put that in your mouth to dropper full, I don't even mix it with anything. I just put it in straight in. And you can really taste the power that's in it. When you drink certain things or take certain things, you could feel in your mouth, you're like, wow, this has got something in it. It's electrifying.
It's like when you eat mushrooms.
Well, whatever, yeah, if you eat mushrooms, yeah.
That is, I'm glad you hypothetically are just joking about that.
Of course. But, you
can tell it's psychoactive.
Well, just taking not One World Way, but that's good too, but the Interfood. When you drink that, you could tell it's got stuff in it.
And we sell that at InfoWarsStore.com.
Immediately, like, goes into your system and you could feel it going in. Things that are good, you could tell they're good for you when you eat them.
And like when I first started doing the shakes with the wheatgrass that Richard brings me.
Oh, yeah.
I would get
you go like this.
Well, at first I was so unhealthy it made me feel sick. Yeah. Now it feels good when I drink it.
It's cleaning you out.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think the first time I drank raw milk, I was in the bathroom for a couple days. But you know what? After that, boom, it's like
it's never done that. It's never caused me any problems.
Well, as I talked to our milk supplier, he goes, well, it's just cleaning you out. And let me tell you, a couple sessions of that and I was cleaned out and I'm ready to go, now. I mean, I hardly even eat as much as I used to just because I'm only putting as good a thing.
You do look good.
Body.
I mean, you look good before, but you look really vibrant.
I turned 40 this year, so.
We're same age.
This month, yeah. So
I am your elder, though.
You are, right, by about a month. Right. A little over a month. So, and I feel great. I don't feel like I'm 40. I don't feel like that. I feel like I'm 22 still. I still feel, and in fact, I feel better. I was losing my hair in college because I was eating Taco Bell and all that other crap.
I remember you said
drinking soda.
But now we go hiking, we take the kids inner tubing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's not a lot of exercise, the inner tubing. Unless it's
hard lifting those bottles. I'm just joking.
We have fun, though. We have a lot of fun.
Oh, man. But yeah, I didn't mean to digress. I'm going to do 20, 30 minutes of overdrive now, folks, because I'm going to go to your phone calls. Steve, Mike, Randy, Chad, Tony. I'm going to at least get to these calls. I want to get to McAdoo's report. Programmers at South by Southwest don't know Snowden leak spy news. I mean, they don't know anything. It's a really good report, but I don't know, the headline might be too long. Programmers at South by Southwest don't know Snowden leak spy state info. I would say programmers at South by Southwest don't know who Snowden is.
About Snowden.
Yeah, that's good. Snowden. And I'm not criticizing. We all just help each other with headlines around here.
Headlines are one of the biggest things out there for people getting into this and doing their own YouTubes. A headline is what will bring people in to watch your video.
Yeah, and I mean, usually we're dealing with such sensational stuff. Our problem is we can't come up with something sensational enough to actually show what reality is.
Yep.
It's like mainstream media will take some horrible thing the government said and make it sound totally dry.
Yeah.
Well, we just take it and report it and give it what our bias of liberty that we think it's terrible.
Like
we think it's terrible they want to put brain chips in the troops to control them, and it's in the New York Times being promoted as good. I mean, I have a bias openly.
You know the taser drones that they have where they say
they have taser drones at drills chasing people around in Austin,
and they'll make that seem like, oh, it's just for crowd control purposes. You know, no, this stuff is going to be used to come after you. It could be hacked.
It's like they show up at your party and climb up on the table to crap in the punch bowl and go, I'm going to add some protein to everything. You don't mind if I mean, Dianne Feinstein says it's good for your own good.
Yeah,
don't be racist.
She doesn't like to be spied upon, but she's
well. They call us having free will discrimination.
Yeah.
Like, if I have any opinion, it's discrimination.
Going back to this Malaysia flight, what do you think about this, that finally the military's come out and said, oh, we were tracking it for 100 miles after it.
All right, I'm going into overdrive to take your calls. Steve, Mike, Randy, Chad, Tony, and others on this Malaysian flight. The article just went live up on Infowars.com. Nobody's come out with this angle yet. It happened in the same area of Asia. Missing Malaysia flight similar to lost 707 or 007 McDonald flight. The reason I'm butchering the headline is Kit just walked in with this great article that I asked him to do, and then I just changed the headline. He's going in there to change it right now, so I was changing it on air. Missing Malaysia flight similar to lost 007 McDonald flight. I think that's the way to put it. And it's a very, very important article, and I'll be breaking that down after I take some of your phone calls. I want to show you something that's satanic, though, if you're watching on television. I didn't ask for this, and Weldon Henson's a great guy running the shipping department and the product department. But I guess Weldon was nice and sent people to a decent hamburger chain for fast food. It's like organic, they claim. And I didn't ask for it. They got me a P. Terry's hamburger. And this is satanic. Not P. Terry's in general, the little chain that started in Austin. This is satanic. Like a Ferrari that are now coming out that are part hybrid, that's satanic. A Ferrari that doesn't... And the wrapping's racist because it's white. You know, they're trying to phase out brown bags. And the word bossy because it might hurt feminist... Sounds like a Monty Python joke, but they're actually doing it. That's up on Infowars.com. This, ladies and gentlemen, is satanic. This is a P. Terry's hamburger. And we get a document cam shot of the offending item. Ladies and gentlemen, this hamburger has no cheese, no ketchup, no mustard, no lettuce, no onions, no tomatoes. This, ladies and gentlemen, is just satanic. Just like trying to take our guns is satanic. Just like trying to make men into women and women into androids is satanic. This is not right. This is anathema. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put Super Male Vitality on it. No one has ever done this before. Super Male Vitality available at InfoWarsLife.com. I'll put Super Male Vitality on it. And now they could actually start offering and some Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is no longer satanic. I have transmognified it, if that's a word, to the most delicious burger in the galaxy. I'm going to stop being silly. Let's get into some serious topics. Steve, I forgot to eat today. Steve in Minnesota, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex, how you doing today? Great
I'm all right, brother. That's actually not too bad. What do you think about what happened with the flight?
I don't know. There's a bunch of ideas floating around, but I wonder if it might have something to do with one of those possible nukes that were secretly shipped out. I know you mentioned that the plane could have been hijacked and maybe landed at some CIA-funded terrorist base, and maybe they're retrofitting it with a stolen nuke.
Ooh, that's a really good point. Anything's possible when Dr. Evil basically runs the government.
Yeah, exactly. And, the mind does wander sometimes, but it's almost something out of a Tom Clancy novel. I mean, who knows what's going on?
Well, it happened right over North Korea. The plane flew right by North Korea. And the Russians are known for doing weird stuff. They can remote control things. I mean, literally anything could have happened. It is a giant mystery. But it's just like the Larry McDonald flight. Do you know about that incredible case?
I do not know.
Yeah, I really should have covered that at the very start of the show, but I went into a total rant about. But please look it up. Larry McDonald, it's in the article that Kit Daniels just put up on Infowars.com. It was back in 1983. They got all these politicians off the plane. They redirected it. He was invited to South Korea to attend a celebration, 30th anniversary United States-South Korean Mutual Defense Treaty. He was going to end up being president, folks. He was anti-New World Order, a real guy, super smart, super good-looking, and a Democrat. He was just unstoppable, and they killed him. With 3 fellow members of Congress, Jesse Helms of North Carolina, Steve Sums of Idaho, and Representative Carol Hubbard of Kentucky. And then they basically redirected the plane. He still stayed on it, and it disappeared by North Korea.
Alex Jones.
Got a Leanne McAdoo report coming up. Talking to the bobbleheads at South by Southwest. But right now, let's talk to Mike and then Randy, Chad, and Tony. Mike, what do you think's going on with this mystery Malaysia Airlines Flight 370? Maybe, well, go ahead. What do you think happened?
Alex.
Yes, sir.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm good, brother. What do you think's going on?
Well, it's a pleasure speaking to you, first of all. Secondly, this could just be one of these rare situations where it could be an actual hijacking.
No, I agree, because every time it's a real hijacking, they never say it's a hijacking, and the jihadis fly it into the water, usually as payback for something. I totally agree. Go ahead.
Usually if it's something staged, okay, there's some type of evidence by now that, they can't hold out this long.
And the media is all lined up, ready to push some agenda. Absolutely. No, I agree. It could be a real hijacking. The only issue is, where's the debris?
Well, that is a question. I think, if it was a real hijacking, the evidence is going to be extremely hard to find because, obviously, they put their minds to it. That's my scenario. It's always a possibility. I just think that if it was a staged event and this could have been a drill or something, we would have seen some type of evidence come out by now, like you said, with some sort of agenda, to follow it up.
I agree with you. And I mean, I'm not trying to say these guys are guilty. They just look like the type of guys they choose that aren't that big, but still look like they're in shape. And the looks in their eyes, like they're not trying to act aggressive and mean on a mission, but they can't help the fact that they look completely focused. And it's just snapshots of video. It's just they look like Hezbollah-type special forces people.
Hey, can I ask you a question a little bit off topic?
Yeah,
okay?
Sure.
With everything that's unfolding in our great country here, in your gut feeling, do you feel that when the time comes, do you think it's going to be some type of tragic event, or do you feel that society is just going to, fold out into this whole thing?
Man, that's a big one. I think it's what Dr. Stallman said earlier. It's really up to us and what we do and how we make changes and how we speak out and how we vote with our dollars and what we stand for. But it doesn't matter because it's the animating contest of life. We have to fight back against the tyranny or you're not even alive. I mean, survival is success. Our entire development was on the edge until just 6,000 years ago or so with the development of agrarian civilization. And so not fighting back and not standing for something and turning into jellyfish and becoming decadent slobs is our greatest threat. So we've seen the enemy, it is us, look in the mirror. We have bad government because we become bad people. But it's going to be crazy. I think you're going to have mega plagues, real and manufactured. Super bugs are already out there. I think it's going to kill hundreds of millions. I think you're just going to, I mean, things are unsustainable the way they are because the public is not hard. The public is soft, myself included. And nature abhors an anathema, an enigma, a fraud, an infamia. I don't know what word I should use. It's a joke. It's an unnatural, shuffling, weak, soft people loving their programming, loving their servitude. I mean, the New World Order is going to be allowed to kill all these people, and probably a lot of us with them. And quite frankly, the New World Order is right. It's natural that slovenly, weak slobs who aren't animated with the spirit of liberty will be annihilated. The only issue is the globalists are helping them be dumb slobs so they can control them instead of being chivalrous, even in their evil, if they were going to be evil, and believing they're so great that they could empower humanity and still be number one within that system. And it's just so important. I know I always just endlessly talk about that because I want to see people successful. I see some guy with a beautiful wife. I don't get mad at him and say, she should be mine. Or I see somebody with a really cool house. I don't get mad their house is better than mine. Now, I get mad if they steal it from me or somebody else. Then I want to go after them. All right, let's go to your phone calls. The Malaysia flight. What do you think happened? 370. I'm leaning towards hijacking and somebody flying it into the ocean. And it wouldn't be the first time they didn't find any debris for a while. But I'm not sure about that. And I don't want to say these guys that are getting on the plane are guilty just because they're Iranian. But that's the Iranian style, and it's happened before into the Mediterranean, into the Persian Gulf over there, where they get on board the planes and then fly them right down into the water. There's also been cases where Egyptian military, multiple times, the planes get blown up. That's probably the Israelis. If the Egyptian military doesn't play ball, there's been a bunch of cases of you know, where you got 20, 30, 40, 50 Egyptian top brass on an airplane, they blow those up. So I don't know. I mean, this is a real mystery. And Mike Adams has a really interesting story that's up on Infowars.com. I want to get him on tomorrow if he can come on via Skype or even in studio and get into just the craziness. In fact, I had that article, and now I can't find it. Maybe reprint it for me. But here's the article up on Infowars.com by Kit Daniels. Missing Malaysian flight similar to lost McDonald flight. And I wanted to go over some of the points he makes. It's just really interesting. Here's another one. This is unbelievable, but there's video of it. It's up on Infowars.com. Feminist control freaks want to ban the word bossy because that might hurt them because they're bossy. These are bossy control freaks that want to rule everyone and say you're guilty because you're a man or you're white or whatever, and then you do whatever they say politically because they have Beyonce come out and tell you that, you know, calling henpecking control freak women, there's control freak men as well, but it is kind of a trait known to some women, that is illegal, folks. You will ban white bags. They're hateful. Brown bags are hateful. Everything's hateful except the New World Order putting cancer viruses in your vaccines. Yeah, here's the article, and we're going to your calls. Disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 begins to demand supernatural explanations. By the way, my buddy I know is out there listening. I want to give him the code. We are going shooting today. We are going shooting today. That's not really code for anything. We are going shooting today. But he was texting me earlier that my phone died. I need to call my buddy. I forgot and tell him we are going shooting. Side issue. I just had a feeling he was listening, so I just said that. Disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 begins to demand supernatural explanations. And it goes on to say that the phones are calling people and calling back home and calling computer systems. The Washington Post is reporting 4 mind-bending possibilities, none of which seem possible. The kidnapped explanation. The plane somehow landed somewhere without leaving a radar signature of any kind. All the passengers being held hostage and were thus still alive. Their mobile devices are somehow within cell tower range and yet for some reason have not been confiscated. Maybe this is all just some big diversion for the war they're about to start in Ukraine. I don't know. Who knows with the globalists? This could be some mass diversion. Mind-bending possibility 2. The Stargate explanation, the teleportation portal of some kind, like the Bermuda Triangle exists, and it just disappeared to the alternate universe where Al Gore lives with the man-bear pig. Mind-bending possibility 3, the failed search explanation. far more mundane explanation supposes that the massive multi-day search for the plane wreckage and debris simply hasn't stumbled upon the correct location yet. That could be it, and it's a hijacking. Number 4, advanced military weapons explanation, that they just obliterated it or vaporized it with some of the Philadelphia-type experiment stuff. We must stick to the mundane explanations until more searches can be conducted. Yeah. Or it could just be old-fashioned hijackers. Or it could have been remote controlled to another base by hackers or by government or by the Easter Bunny. I don't know. Let's move quickly now to your calls. Tony in California, thank you for holding. What do you think's happening with the missing airplane?
I think you got it pretty much spot on. I think it went down. I'm hoping these guys are sitting on a tarmac, but when they're talking about supernatural stuff, they're just milking the story.
That's interesting. What does your gut tell you?
I think it was a hijacking. I'm hoping those guys are on a tarmac somewhere, but I'm thinking, yeah, they took it down.
You know, I tend to think, who do you think took it down?
It's kind of strange. It's flying out of Malaysia, so that'd be kind of, I think, what you were talking about before, I'm pretty much sure, like, someone out of Russia or Iran, one of those two.
Interesting. I appreciate your call. Well, Malaysia is a mainly Muslim nation, and that's the kind of place where, you know, the real folks that really want to do something can get on board. But again, it may not be. I don't want to sit there and pass blame on people, even though they're suspects, reportedly. I just think they look like capable, very serious people who are on a mission and are whacked out of their brains a little bit. But maybe that's a video still they just chose to make the guys look bad. Maybe they're totally innocent. In fact, I bet they are innocent. I bet Obama's innocent of everything as well. Let's talk to Randy in South Carolina. Randy, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. What's on your mind?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and, you know, I don't think it was a hijacking. The reason I say that is because these cockpits are hardened now. Ever since 9/11, they're hardened. The check-in security is heightened. It'd be very difficult for a couple of guys to get on the airplane and hijack it without the pilots at least being able to call a tower somewhere, radio traffic controller somewhere.
Unless they got a hand grenade on and said, tell them not to contact anybody, let me in the cockpit or I'm going to detonate this hand grenade. But I don't even believe that, because there have been other real hijacking cases where guys had guns and stuff and people fought them and sometimes beat them. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the toughest guy around, but if 4 guys pull box cutters out and I'm on a plane, I'd say, man, let's beat their, let's go. I mean, it would just be absolutely, those guys, I don't care how tough they think they are, you're the attacker, you don't have the high ground, I'm going to stomp you into the ground, I'm going to hurt you bad. And I cannot believe those flights full of men, a lot of them veterans, defense contractors, you name it. Some of them were guys that have been out of the military 5 years. I mean, imagine walking into a military bar and pulling a box cutter out and going, I'm going to, kick your butt, do what I tell you. They would get up and literally break your arm and probably break your neck. I mean, I just don't buy it. I mean, do you buy that nobody fought back on 9/11?
No, absolutely not. And the other thing, too, you can look at the passenger manifest and go through that and see if there's any people that actually stick out. There may be somebody that they want to get rid of, so they just took the whole plane down remotely. That's a possibility.
Look, I lean towards the fact that we know they have the remote systems. It could have been done by any third party or government or agency or corporation. You're right. And maybe I'm just being influenced by the photos of the Iranians. And again, they're probably completely innocent. It's just that when they stage stuff, they hype it. And there's no hype associated with this about some agenda they've got right now. I mean, Boston bombing, they were lined up, they were ready. Sandy Hook, Aurora, they were lined up, they were ready. Turned out Bloomberg had his Twitter campaign set the day before saying, get ready. I mean, we really caught them with their pants down on this one. Because the scripting, don't let a good crisis go to waste. There's no scripting here, and so it's an incredible mystery. Thank you so much, Randy. Great points. Chad in Canada, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hey, brother.
How's it going?
Good.
Good. I got some extremely good weather up here. I think we're trading our bad weather with you guys down there here in the last couple of years. I'm a little... I mean, I've been looking at this too, and I think the... if it is a terrorist event, would you not think that they would sort of be all over that and glorify that because they'd actually have something real they could use to further an agenda?
Here's what I found, because they follow playbooks. The old rule was when there's real terrorism into the 80s, you don't cover it or talk about it because it gives the terrorist attention. And I've confirmed and talked to real sources that there have been power plants blown up, people killed, all sorts of terror attacks that were real, carried out mainly by the Iranians as tit for tat, because that's the only real military opposition. Saudi Arabia and Al-Qaeda, that's all synthetic. That's why we know that attack was fake as well. Saudi Arabia wasn't invaded, even though 15 of the so-called hijackers of the 19 came from there. So there's a lot of points that go into it. But in my experience, when the Iranians stage something, the West doesn't give it attention. Or when another group does it, they don't cover it. Real terror attacks do not get covered. Fake ones get covered. And I only learned this last decade from watching it and then researching stuff that goes on. But everybody knows you don't give terrorists attention. You don't give in to terrorist demands. You don't. That was always what you did to, I mean, my God, change the whole world because some terrorist hit us? That's empowering the terrorist. That's the terrorist winning whoever they are. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, I do. And I think maybe my only other possibility, I know there were some talks of possible North Korean missiles aloft, but I don't know what type of damage a missile does to a plane in order to break up its debris so it couldn't be found.
I agree, and Kim Jong-un was elected with 100% of the vote, so he is not a dictator. Did you hear that today?
Yeah, that's for sure. I got one last point, or actually a question for you, Alex. Just skipping because you've been talking about 9/11 a little bit today. Have you received or looked at Dr. Judy Wood's book, Where Did the Towers Go?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said there's a lot of weird anomalies and things going on at the towers. I've just stuck with what I could prove, and they've made a faux controversy out there about that I never covered toasted cars and energy weapons and all that. And that's not true. I mean, I've had Ventura on covering it. I've let them plug their stuff. I've interviewed some of the people. But then when it becomes, you better have someone on, not from her, but from others, or else. I mean, I remember one guy one time sent me an email, and he said, you're going to have me on to expose the Vatican, or I'm going to expose you as working for him. And I sent an email back saying, well, I'd be happy to interview you for your views on the Vatican, but not being threatened. It's like coming up to a woman at a bar and saying, go out with me or I'm going to punch you in the nose. I mean, she's going to call the bouncer and have you thrown out. I mean, that's not how you get. So I'm not going to have her on my show. So that's the end of it. Ever. Because what happens is there was all these attacks on Stephen Jones, the professor, and others about thermite that was clearly there. And there was all these attacks just by a whole camp in infighting, cognitive dissonance, Cass Sunstein type stuff, and I just will not be part of it. I mean, people that I gave platforms and were super nice to, professor out of Minnesota, others, later came out and just created this whole fake controversy thinking I would then attack them, that they would get attention. And what they got was no attention. Now, after the fact, I'll tell people why I did that. But I saw some real sophisticated operative type stuff coming out during that whole period. Whereas Mark Dice attacked me with a bunch of made up stuff. I saw him lose weight. He didn't look as focused as he used to look. I like Mark. I called him up. I said, hey, you been going through a lot in your life? I bet you have. And you know what? He goes, yeah, how do you know that? And he's a good guy. I said, I forgive you. You tried to destroy me. You swore, your best you could. You failed. I wanted you to fail first to let you know that I love you in Christ and that I forgive you. You're a talented guy who's a great author and a great mind, and you do great work. So I'm going to promote you now, and I'm going to promote you to Drudge and everybody else. How's that sound? But I only did that because he's a good guy. He's not an operative. And I'm not saying Judy Wood's an operative. I'm saying that whole constellation. Like one of the guys involved that later came out in the documentary about crowdsourcing that was award-winning, was in the CIA. And so that's what was happening. They didn't want us looking at bombs in the towers and the collapse. They want it to be fantastical space beams or ground-based weapons, which I know they have. But you can't prove it. I can prove the hijackers were trained at U.S. military bases. I can prove they were ordered to be given visas. I can prove cell phones don't work at 33,000 feet. I can prove those phone calls weren't made. The FBI admits it. I can't prove that the towers demolished and went down from some type of plasma resonance beam that vibrated the metal into pieces, which I know they've got. I mean, there's some weird stuff kinetically going on in toasted cars and all the rest of it. I mean, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. So I don't poo-poo any of those people. All right, I'm out of time. I apologize to all the other callers. Call me back tomorrow. Nightly News is tonight, 7 o'clock Central. We're going to go to this McAdoo, Leanne McAdoo report. And we're going to break down the fact that the folks at South by Southwest at the computer conference, most of them did not know why they were there to hear Snowden. Even after he spoke, they just knew it was trendy. It was really cool. And my problem with South by Southwest is about 99% of the people who were there are being abused and fed on by predators. There's no real market there. There's no real... Some people may make connections. Some people may be successful. But low level, it's just a bunch of folks there who literally believe that they're going to be stars. I mean, I've heard conversations on the street when I've been down there, like, yeah, I came here, I'm going to be a movie star now. After I get money, I spent all my money. And you're not going to be an NBA player. You're 5 feet tall. You're not going to be a movie star, okay? In the Hollywood system that's collapsing. Let's go to Leanne McAdoo's report.
I'm here at the Austin Convention Center during South by Southwest. Edward Snowden is the keynote speaker now. We're going to go around and find out what people think the impact surveillance has had on the tech industry. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Very well. Where are you guys from?
Chicago.
Chicago. Glad to be here in Texas?
Yeah, there's sun, so that's nice.
Where are you from?
I'm from Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, welcome. Are you enjoying Austin?
I am. Lots of fun.
Hey, guys. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Where are you from?
Here.
From Austin. Welcome. Are you excited about Edward Snowden being the keynote speaker today?
I think it's pretty cool, yeah, but I don't really want to be on camera.
You got glasses on. No one can see who you are. So are you all familiar with Edward Snowden?
Yeah. Yep.
How do you feel the information that he shared has affected the tech industry?
Ooh, very good question. I think it's made everybody more aware and more nervous about, before we were kind of pushing everything out. We didn't really care about what it was, and we would share what we're eating for breakfast. Now it's, I would say, more nervous and more cautious about what we're doing.
It's really unpredictable right now. I think that's why it's so interesting, because there's so many different directions in which it can go, and we struggle with it on like the government level, and we struggle with it on a marketer level, and we struggle with it on an everyday consumer level with all, everyone putting their information out there through social media.
Are you much more concerned and cautious now while you're doing?
I'm not really concerned. I don't do anything sketchy on the internet, so I'm not worried. And I don't know. I'm not really a private person.
Seems sort of like kind of a wonderful thing to have access to someone who's divulging so much important information. I think you're crazy if you're not concerned about privacy online.
You can interview my friend. Is that like, yeah. That's super techie, right?
Yeah, this is pretty intense right now.
He's got a film.
Are you guys going to the Edward Snowden talk right now?
No, I'm not, actually. I'm going to a film.
Are you familiar with some of the things that are being leaked by Edward Snowden about how much it's affecting society?
I'm not.
What? I don't know what the Snowden leaks are. Is that something akin to the WikiLeaks?
What am I supposed to say to that? Oh my goodness. You are not aware. You are building a mobile app and you do not know how this is going to... How are you going to protect your people that are going to download your app?
Well, I just have to say thank you for keeping me informed. I'll probably have to do some more research and look into it.
Yes. Do you think people should have a right to privacy on the internet, or we should have internet rights?
The internet is, you can live your life without it. So, buyer beware, right? If you want to use that kind of technology, it comes with that kind of a catch. And that's probably okay.
So you don't mind that you're being watched, like when you do yoga via the Xbox and stuff like that, or like your webcam photos, or going to somebody at the NSA?
Yeah, I guess that is kind of sketchy.
I think it's really scary, and I think it's something that's really real that we kind of all need to think about in everyday lives, and we're so willing to offer up all of the information. I actually am a marketer by trade, so I understand how much we rely on that sort of information, so I think it's a really delicate balance.
The fact that the government is surveilling and that they are going to be monitoring electronic transmissions, I mean, you know, that's something that we should be aware of, or we're naive.
Did you guys catch Edward Snowden at all?
Yeah, but I don't want to be on timber though.
All right. How do you feel about the way that WikiLeaks gets whistleblowers' information out there versus how Snowden's information is being given to the public?
How I feel about the difference between how WikiLeaks did and how he did?
Yeah, all at once versus slow drips every couple of months.
It seems a little more responsible to do it the way Snowden's doing it.
I think if you're going to give it out, give it out. It's going to take, look how long it took to go through the WikiLeaks, right? I think we're still going through the WikiLeaks stuff, right? Yeah. So someone who actually used to work for Homeland Security, I did a long time ago, information, if you just throw it out there, then let people decipher to bite what they want and kind of do it properly instead of filtering it through, giving time to people to change the message, so to speak.
As a, sort of a population, we have a really short attention span and a fairly short memory for even major events. I was talking to someone who worked on the legal team when the Enron affair was happening, and really things like that just disappear from the radar. People forget really sort of pivotal, important things. So the more persistence and sort of incremental growth of information he can provide, the better, I think.
I think it's just the beginning. I think it was just the opening of things that are to come.
As long as Americans continue to use tools that are developed by advertisers, then we can't expect to have privacy, right? So Google Chrome is the #1 browser. Google's an advertising company.
Do you think we're all just kind of being conditioned to just be okay with it and accept it?
No, I mean, you have an option to either use it or not use it, and you use it, you're putting yourself up at risk. So.
But what about all the people walking around with the Google glasses on?
I think those are silly.
Yeah.
So.
Can't opt out of that.
No, you can't, or just run away, I guess.
I feel like maybe people are a little bit desensitized now. Like, it seems that people should be outraged, but they're kind of like,
Yeah, I agree. It's a unfortunately evolution of this technology that we don't have control. We did not know where it was going to go.
Everyone's filming you everywhere. You can't opt out anymore. Well, it seems like this is just the beginning of what we've heard from Snowden. A lot of people agree with the way that it's being slowly leaked out. It keeps it in the news, but it's also a little bit more responsible in the name of national security, so people sort of understand that. But it also seems like a lot of people are really desensitized. 5 years ago, if you told them that they were being spied on through their webcam or via their telephone,